the AM show. My name is Benjamin Akapo. Now, I'd invite you to stick and stay with us over these next 4 hours because it's a packed lineup we have for you. And I'll tell you exactly what we're contemplating with you this morning. We'll serve you the news. At the tail end of that, we'll bring you sports. And then for the news review, we have Hamza Suini. He's a lawyer and member of the NDC's communications team. We also have Kwesi Boche. He is with the MPP's communications directorate, together with, well, from the Movement for Change, Nana Yao Sapong. And from there, we get into our big stories. Now, the number one issue we're contemplating today, Chief Justice Gertrude Esaba Torkonoo has jumped into the legal battle herself, filing for an interlocutory injunction at the Supreme Court to halt ongoing processes to remove her from office. Now, this comes hours after the Supreme Court, in a 4-1 decision, dismissed another application against the suspension of the Chief Justice. What would this added twist do? This morning, the twists and turns of a Chief Justice seeking justice, so to speak. We hear from some legal luminaries on that matter. But in case you've wondered about the frosty United States-South Africa relations, which are on the rocks, or some would say on repair, there's been another confrontation at the Oval Office as Cyril Ramaphosa, has defended land policy following accusations of South African white genocide by President Donald Trump. We'll explore that issue, looking at the currents of it and its implications for the United States and South Africa's relations. Again, we're on the ground for day 3, boots on the ground, of that AMA drive to decongest Accra, the city centre, where traders are impeding pedestrian walkways and also attempt to improve vehicular traffic. All of that coming your way this morning. You don't want to miss a bit of that. Don't you forget, the AM show is proudly sponsored by Whaley Properties. We provide quality housing at an affordable cost and with a flexible payment option. Speaking of flexibility, stay flexible this morning. It's going to be quite a ride. Up next, we'll be serving you the news.
Good morning. This is the AM News on the AM show, and we're live on DSTV channel 421, Go TV channel 125, around the world on myjoyonline.com, and of course on Facebook, X Spaces, and on YouTube. Details now. 22-year-old Martha has lived in a shelter her entire life until she aged out and was left with nowhere to go. Like many rescued by the state, she was promised care but abandoned halfway. Now she faces life on the streets. Her story highlights deep failures uncovered during a recent tour of shelters by Parliament's Gender, Children and Social Protection Committee. And we'll tell you exactly what this is about in this report.
Lived at the New Life Nungwa Children's Home since she was a baby. It's been her only home, keeping her safe from the dangers of the streets.
I've been here since 22 years ago.
So you were a baby when you were brought in?
Yes, please.
Schooling?
Yes, please, I'm schooling.
Where?
I'm in University of Professional Studies, UPSA, Banking and Finance. I want to become an entrepreneur.
But for the kindness of shelter workers and individual donors, Martha and many children like her would be left without basic needs. Sadly, state support for these shelters is scarce. During a tour of shelters, the Parliamentary Committee on Gender, Children and Social Protection uncovered a system in crisis. Children with special needs are often cared for by untrained staff, while shelter managers struggle alone to cover utility bills and feeding costs. Caretakers say they are overwhelmed and urgently need the government to take responsibility.
A lot of challenges, especially when it comes to these utility bills, water, lights, gas, because we don't use firewood. When I came in, I said that we should talk to the government to help us talk to Zoom Lion. If they can make it free for us, at least it's supposed to be, because these children are not our own, it's for everybody.
The Department of Social Welfare says its hands are tied due to limited resources, making consistent support and monitoring almost impossible. Chairperson of the Parliamentary Committee on Gender, Children and Social Protection, Helen Ntoso, describes the system as unsustainable.
We've appealed to the ministry that during a review, the budget review, if they can, actually increase their budget because they are actually struggling.
She promises immediate reforms to ensure these vulnerable children, especially those with special needs, receive the care they deserve.
Definitely, we have to do that. We have to do that because they were even talking about their utilities. If the state, because if for what we're told, the police, social welfare, bring these children to them. So if the state is giving children with learning disabilities, children who do not have homes, to a private entity, then it means that you've got to resource them.
But as Martha and countless others wait, children remain at risk on the streets and unsafe homes with no clear sign that help is coming soon.
A non-profit organization, Moving Health, has donated medical equipment, computers and other essential items to support hands-on midwifery education at the Tumu Midwifery Training College in Tumu. The items include 25 desktop computers, 14 UPS units, 3 crank hospital beds and 2 multi-purpose delivery beds, a 50-liter autoclave machine and an automated pregnant mannequin are valued at 250,000 Ghana cedis. According to the Chief Executive Officer of Moving Health, Isaac Amwa-Kwansa, the donation is aimed at equipping future midwives with practical tools needed to respond effectively to life-threatening maternal emergencies. And Rafiq Salam tells us more from Tumu.
Moving Health is a non-profit organization that has a mixture of social and community health workers and engineers who come together to design, fabricate, and deploy affordable emergency transportation for rural areas. They have been working in the Sisala East municipality since 2019, where they manufactured tricycle ambulances to serve rural communities in Ghana, particularly supporting pregnant women and reaching emergency care. The organization's mission is to ensure that everyone, regardless of their location, can access health care when they need it most. Chief Executive Officer of Moving Health, Isaac Amwa-Kwansa, speaking at a ceremony to donate medical equipment, computers, and training for students of Tumu Midwifery Training College and midwives, noted the significant successes chalked by his outfit with the donation of the tricycle ambulance.
We've been able to make strides in helping reduce the maternal mortality rate in the municipal assembly through our ambulances deployed to the various CHIP compounds. Today we have about 21 ambulances in the region itself, connecting about 100,000 people and family.
Isaac Amwa-Kwansa then zeroed in on the donation of the medical equipment and computers valued at 250,000 Ghana cedis.
Moving Health has donated close to over 250,000 Ghana cedi worth of items, which includes the 25 computers to set up the new computer lab, and also a lot of medical training equipment to refurbish the new lab.
Principal of the Tumu Midwifery Training College, Mary Saratu Adama, was grateful for the donation. She spoke of the benefits the students will derive from the usage of the items.
Enable the students practice on hand with the mannequins as to how to deliver and how to attend to patients. And so the donation will go a long way to benefit us.
Also excited were the students.
It's not sufficient. And for that reason, students they can't practice as expected. So with these donated items, I think it will give a platform to each and every student to be able to go to the lab and practice.
Moving Health, with support from the Twatula Fund, sponsored a training for midwives and midwifery students focused on manual removal of retained placenta and manual vacuum aspiration MVA. Reporting for Joy News, Rafiq Salam, Tumu.
Moving on, students at the Nyohini Community Technical Institute dream of pursuing trades like carpentry, catering and fashion design. However, the very foundation of their education is under threat. The school's crumbling infrastructure poses a daunting challenge to its mission of empowering the next generation of skilled artisans and entrepreneurs. In this report, Joy News' Northern Regional Correspondent, Martina Bugri, visited the school and brings us the story.
Some of the students usually sleep outside the yard, but when rain is falling, they have to go inside the room. 2 people can pair one bed, and it's been it's distracting with the student, and it's affecting our health.
In the heart of Tamale, the northern regional capital, lies the Nyohini Community Technical Institute, a citadel for vocational training in northern region. Despite its noble mission to equip students with valuable skills, the school faces significant infrastructure challenges. Dilapidated walls, leaky roofs, and congested classrooms hindering the learning environment. Constructed in 1965, the school has not seen any major facelift. Jabondo Ranyamka, the girls' prefect, lists some of the challenges they face.
We have crowded dormitories that in such a way that students are more than 36 in a room. That is the large room, and the smallest room contains more than 20 students. It has been a very major problem for we the girls.
This is one of the structures in the school, very dilapidated. Currently, it has been grounded, which means about 100 students who were housed here have to relocate to other classes so that they can learn.
In an already dire situation of congestion, the roof of the classrooms have been ripped up, making it difficult for learning to take place. Principal Margaret Adiboka of the Institute highlights some of the pressing challenges facing the school.
We have a challenge of a rainstorm that happened on the 8th of May. And that roof of some of our classrooms and then the boys' dormitory. We don't have enough classroom, enough dormitories, and then where the children are to see.
The boys' hostel, originally designed to accommodate 150 boys, is currently overcrowded with 260 boys, according to boys' prefect Adam Seidu.
They combine the class and the dormitory. Even when it is raining, we can't find place to sleep unless we gather with a place and find when the rain stops so that we now come and make sure we clean the place and we lie down outside the compound and sleep.
This is one of the crowded rooms in the school. It houses about 36 students. This makes it very uncomfortable, especially during the warm season where the place is very hot.
The principal and students are now urgently appealing for assistance to address these issues.
We are appealing to the government, stakeholders, and then individuals to come to our aid and help support the school.
Students get distracted.
In Kumasi, many commuters are not celebrating the upcoming 15% reduction in transport fares. Instead, they're bracing for more out-of-pocket costs. Even before the fare cut takes effect, passengers say they are being dropped off mid-road and forced to pay extra to reach their destination. The practice, known locally as short, is leaving daily travelers frustrated and financially stretched. Irabna Kwei reports from Kumasi.
Transport fares are expected to go down by at least 15% next week. But for many commuters, relief still feels far off. That is because of a growing trend called short, where commercial drivers drop passengers off halfway and demand extra fares to continue the journey.
If I was the government, I would make sure that, yes, the rules, the price have been changed, people will follow it. If you don't, and issue a task force. Let them make sure that they comply with the law. Otherwise, Ghana will never move forward.
In the evenings, a Ejiso is 5 cedis, but they charge 10 cedis. From here to town is 5 cedis 50 pesos, but you spend about 20 cedis coming back, and it's not good. They should decrease it.
They do that when they see a lot of passengers. As there's no one here, they'll go to Kejetia Edum Street.
Drivers say they are not trying to cheat the system. They blame high demand, fuel and spare parts cost. For them, breaking journeys into smaller sections is the only way to stay afloat.
We will continue to do short shots. The fare was increased and has now been decreased. They should maintain the fare. If they insist on decreasing fares, short shots is now about to become rampant. We buy 1 gallon of fuel for 60 cedis. Loading for a straight journey will amount to 62 cedis. When we don't do short shots, we'll use the money for fuel.
The question remains, are passengers going to feel the difference? Or are practices like short shots still going to bite into their already far-stretched budgets? Reporting for Joy News, Erabna Akwe, Kumasi.
And that takes us into our business update with Benjamin Akakpo.
Welcome to your business updates. We kickstart matters with the currency market for today. Let's get into our stories now. An economist, Dr. Eduho Susakode, has urged managers of the economy to consolidate the gains made so far with the macroeconomic fundamentals by boosting the industrial base of the economy to sustain the positive trajectory. He believes the government can leverage on these gains by expanding exports while reducing imports to allow greater room for credit expansion to the private sector. He spoke to Joy Business.
Yeah, for now, I don't think anybody should panic because all developments from the external sector and the domestic sector look very stable. Externally, we have seen an inflow or increase in cocoa price, inflow of tariffs. Gold price have also increased. I don't know whether we should thank God for that. The dollar has weakened against major trading currencies. Domestically, too, I think the exchange program, both the domestic exchange, the external debt exchange, have all saved the country made some savings from them. IMF program is on course. We've received the tranches from IMF and the World Bank donations. Bank of Ghana has been able to build enough reserves. The gold for reserves program has increased gold reserves from 8 tons to 31 tons. I think for now, things are a bit okay. Even the speculative demand for dollar has died out. I think people are now even doing speculative sales. People are panicking by selling their dollars rather than buying. I think the more sustainable way is to build our export base, as we always say, to industrialize and to increase exportation, reduce importation. That's why many people are surprised about this development because they realize that the structure of the economy hasn't changed that much, and yet we are making these gains. So, going forward, we have to build an industrial base to sustain this. But for now, I think the market is calm, and nobody should panic. The business confidence is high, consumer sentiments are also high, and then hopefully prices will be reduced, and the disinflation process will speed up for the MPC rates to come down very soon. For even businessmen and men then everybody can borrow at a lower interest rate. That's what we are all looking for, to expand our businesses and create jobs.
Now, the government of Ghana has received a $174 million capital gains tax payment from Newmont Corporation following the mining giant's sale of its Achim mine, which was valued at nearly $1 billion. The amount constitutes a substantial portion of the estimated $220 million tax liability due from the transaction. In a separate payment, Newmont also presented a $50 million check to the government representing Ghana's carried interest in the deal. There's more in this report.
A brief ceremony in Accra, the Minister of Finance, Dr. Kasiela Tuforsen, received the payments on behalf of the state and lauded Newmont for its tax compliance and transparent conduct. The Finance Minister also gave assurances of government's commitment to addressing long-standing infrastructure concerns in mining communities. He made specific reference to the poor state of the Kumasi-Kenyasi Road, a critical route serving areas affected by mining activities. Dr. Forsen announced that formal discussions would begin immediately with the Ministry of Roads and Highways to rehabilitate the road, adding that the project is expected to be completed within 12 to 18 months. The payment marks a significant boost to Ghana's domestic revenue efforts and reflects the government's renewed push to ensure that resource-based transactions deliver tangible benefits to the state and affected communities.
Let's zoom right into our commodities market for today. And that's how we cap off the news segment, which of course flows into sports with Haruna Mubarak. Let me serve you a warning this morning. No talk about Manchester
United. Did you watch the game yesterday? Did you watch the game yesterday?
You cherish everything you have.
The gods are talking, the gods of football. They are deciding which team.
We're still talking about Manchester United.
No, but Ben, look, Bologna are winning their first major trophy in 51 years. Palace are winning their first major trophy.
Tottenham 17 years.
7. So it's
Ian Fan Job. Because at least we've won the UEFA Europa Cup before. But Charlie, that match was just a disaster.
It's not good. It's not
I mean, I was following and people were posting on X, tweeting, Ruben Amorim.
I mean, I watched the game. I was on 10 tabs. I just didn't know what to do.
What did you think about Højlund, the Swedish striker? What did you think about him?
Well, he's from Denmark. You can't really blame him much because he's not getting the services. I mean,
you think?
Yes, he's not. Can you mention one clear chance that he had yesterday? No, he didn't. It was in the second half that our players began stepping up, and it took Garnacho to more or less grab the game by the scruff of the neck. But
did you just say our players? Are you a Man U fan?
No, let me do my sports, please.
Well, Haruna Mubarak will usher you right into the sports, and he's going to make us bleed, but we already read. Jens Robia.
Sports Now on the AM show. My name is Haruna Mubarak. We start with a special story where with just one arm, Amos Ahianga and Edmond Governor are lifting hopes and outrunning every doubt. These rising para-athletes are redefining strength as they chase their dreams in para-athletics. In our latest Joy Sports feature, Razak Musbao shares their powerful story of resilience and ambition.
In a world where the odds seem stacked against them,
Two remarkable athletes are proving that disability is not inability. This is the story of Edmond Governor and Amos Ayanga, Ghana's rising para-athlete determined to make a mark in the world of sports. Edmond Governor lost his arm in an accident, a moment that changed his life forever. But rather than give up, he found strength in para-sports, competing in shot put and javelin, while leading the national team as captain. His journey hasn't been easy, but his talent is undeniable.
I was introduced to it by a physio. I actually had an accident. I was involved in a road traffic accident, and I think in my rehabilitation, that was where I met a physio. We were talking, and then he introduced me to sport as part of my rehab, you know. Through the process, we got through it and he introduced it to me. And then I got interested and then read more about it. So after my recovery, I decided to take it up as you know, an interest to explore and see how it's going to help me. I needed to get someone to counsel me on what exactly I would do. And then I approached the NPC at the time. It's been about 7 years now. So I spoke to them about it, and then they counseled me through, looked at my strengths and where they feel I can do well, and then the interest that I had most, which was athletics. And then I took up athletics. And then even the athletics had some process that I had to go through and all of that. So it has been a mixed feeling.
Amos Ayanga's journey mirrors that of Edmond. He, too, lost an arm, but refused to let it define his future. Today, he's pushing boundaries and sprinting a long jump. His speed and determination have already earned him opportunities to represent Ghana.
Well, way back in school, primary, we used to come to Ewak to train, to do competitions here, inter-schools. So more times when I came, actually, I was the best athlete among them. So Coach Ibrahim Suleimana get close to me, and he told me that the way I was able to run with the able people and become first, he wanted to train me so that I can become somebody in future. So that's making me gain interested in the athletics. Through the sports, I was able to travel to Morocco, France, Malawi. Yeah, so I went to experience life out there. So it has really helped me a lot. When I went to Morocco and France and Malawi instead, I met so many different people, the kind of disabilities, and you know. So I see myself that, oh, as for me, I'm okay. Because even with my condition, I can wash, I can do all things by myself. So even as strong, I always thank God for giving the strength and ability to do the sports. Let's go.
Behind their progress is Coach Ibrahim Aminu Suleiman, a man with a keen eye for talent and a deep passion for developing para-sports in Ghana. Along with Amos, he has discovered a number of athletes and has been guiding them towards their dreams.
Somebody like Amos. I got Amos, when Amos in his, I think, class 5, class 5 to class 6 at Kotobabi, that school over there. They came to Ewak with able people, and he was the fastest guy among them. So I quickly approached him. I told him, guy, what's your name? And he mentioned his name. Who is your sports teacher? And I said, can I talk to your sports teacher? So I quickly went to the sports teacher. I told him, Charlie, this guy is a product. It's a material for the nation, not for you alone and not for me. We can help me to achieve something. The coach said, okay, then that will be fine. If he will go back to school and talk to his parents, because I think they are closer to the school. So that's where I got Amos from. And my my shot putter, my discus thrower, Eddie, was motivated by himself. Through our education, and he also came on board. Then we start working together.
However, every great athlete thrives within a system that supports them, one that offers proper training, facilities and opportunities to compete at the highest level. But for para-athletes in Ghana, that foundation is still lacking. Despite their talent and determination, they face significant challenges that stand in the way of their dreams. Now, they are raising their voices, calling for the support they need.
The challenge is the spirit, especially you can wake up early in the morning around 5 o'clock to training, and after there will be no support of transports. Always you have to use your pocket money to training. So the day you don't have money, you have to trek from wherever you are to training. And so more times, because of the situation, more times I give up. That one day I'll say, more times I give up. It's Coach Ibrahim Suleimana and Breadmoon. They will be the people who called me and encouraged me, giving the moral that I shouldn't give up. You know, every successful man must struggle, and you know, you have to sacrifice for your own self.
I believe for para-athletics, we have a peculiar challenge, and that challenge has always been competitions. When I say competitions, we mostly lack local competitions. We are not able to have an orientation where we're able to compete with people in the same disability category or impairment category before you are exposed to the world or the developed countries. So it makes us, you know, I don't know, it doesn't really give us the edge when we get there because we see new things.
Our stadiums are not friendly to them. To we, let me say we, because they are not alone. I'm with them. So we don't have friendly stadium to organize any international competition.
When I see how they support the other sports, especially the football, but the athletics is not, the support is small.
It's not just with those of us doing athletics. It encompasses other para-disciplines as well. You know, we have, in para-athletics, for instance, we have people, we have races. We have the wheelchair races. And some of these wheelchair races, racing equipment costs a fortune. Before you are able to get them, it's not easy, especially for them. And we have athletes who really want to do it, but they don't even have the prosthesis. We have very talented people who want to use prosthesis to, you know, run with and all of that. But we don't have it. We know we are growing, but I believe if we start from somewhere hard and people are able to understand what it is, I believe Ghana can boast of a lot of para-athletes coming home with medals.
Despite the many challenges they go through, Edmond and Amos remain poised to serve as inspiration for the many people with disabilities on the streets of Ghana, struggling to make a living. They want to prove that there is another way, a path to dignity, self-worth and achievement through sports.
Yeah, I want to share this to my colleagues who are disabled and they are on the street begging. Begging is not an option. There are so many opportunities for them.
Parasports is one particular area where people with disability or people with impairment or people who are challenged can also, you know, take up opportunities like sports, education, and other social orientations that would open up doors for them.
Me per se, aside of the sports, I try to baba small. Even sometimes when I'm home, I can do home baba. I know how to baba very well. And after that, I know how to do so many things. So, you know, there is more opportunity for them.
You can use parasports as a tool to change the world in which you are, or use parasports to, you know, help others to come along with. So, I mean, it's a good thing, not just only representing your country or, you know, representing the flag of Ghana and then performing at the highest level and then winning a medal. I think that is it. That is the highest, but there are other things that comes with it.
In recent years, para sports have surged as a powerful force for inclusion and excellence, transforming societal views of disability with enhanced media exposure, funding, and facilities.
Look, I can bet you today's date, just write it down somewhere. 5 years to go, 5 years to come from now, if we do proper scouting, proper recruitment, proper training, proper plan, we are going to bring glory than at the other disciplines. Because everything is now football, football, football. Now we are pleading and appealing to the incoming minister to come on board and open his wings to all the disciplines.
From para-athletics and amputee football to powerlifting and wheelchair tennis, Ghana's para-athletes are calling for a fair share of national resources to invest in their dreams and provide them with the platform they deserve. For Joy Sports, Razak Musbah.
Now, former GFA Executive Council member Sami Enimado is calling for Asamoah to be included in the national youth coaching setup. He believes the former Black Stars captain, who remains Ghana's all-time top scorer with 51 goals, has the expertise to help develop the next generation of strikers.
We have a particular talent, we have a particular DNA, and we know the kind of qualities we have, and we see the talent early, and we persistently support the talent to that level. The talent will make it to that level. And somebody like Asamoah, we can make use of him when it's time for us to call him to come also offer assistance. So it is up to us to be deliberate and strategic and be committed to the cause that this is what we want to do. But I see sometimes when we do it, there's another big problem where we have cowboys calling themselves managers. Anybody saying I'm a manager. Most of them destroy their talents because they come in, even some people now, when the talent is good, instead of the talent listening to the right advice, they will come in and pollute his head, and the talent will not listen.
And that's your spot on the AM show. My name is Haruna Mubarak. The newspaper review continues right after this. Please stay.
Hello, welcome to the news review segment on the AM show. The AM show is sponsored by Waylead Properties. And if you're thinking of a rewarding investment you can engage in, then Waylead Company Limited is your preferred choice for such investment. Waylead Company Limited is a real estate company with several developments to its credit in Accra. And the newest development, Willow Lane, is where elegance meets tranquility in the heart of Accra. And that's where you should put your money, because we provide affordable housing, quality housing at affordable cost, and also with flexible payment options. At Waylead Properties, we also provide you 24-hour security, reliable power supply, and other social amenities to make your stay a memorable one. Give us a call on these numbers: 0240-111-119 or 0504-499-999. You can also visit our website at www.waylead.org for more information. And that brings me to my guest in studio. I have with me this morning Nanaya Sapong from the Movement of Change and Hamza Suyini. He's a lawyer and member of the NDC communications team. Gentlemen, welcome to the news review segment.
Thank you, Sweetie.
Thank you, Sweetie. And good morning to you and our charity viewers.
Good morning. It's a good day to get into the papers and find out what's making the airwaves. But before we do that, I want to take your quick thoughts for us. I'll start with you, Hamza. What's on your mind? In about a minute, let's get your reflections on something topical on your heart.
I think that for me, what is topical has to do with the economy of our country and somehow promising steps that we are beginning to notice in terms of our exchange rate journey in particular. I think over the weekend, I listened to His Excellency Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, who once again in opposition has decided to wear the gown of an economist. Remember, somewhere in 2014, from 2023 to 2014, we were insistent that indeed he should abandon the IT area and more or less assume his known identity, an economist, a lecturer for that matter, who championed the NPP's 2016 campaign agenda on the promises that they were going to revolutionize the economy of this country. In government, he suddenly abandoned his theoretical propositions and decided to be an IT person. Interestingly, in opposition, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia has assumed his economics gown. It suits him, I think, when he's in opposition. But we know that in as much as we are not overly excited about the gains that we are beginning to record in the economic field in terms of our exchange rate was in appreciation, largely because of the kind of promises we made. We know that the expectation is high, and we made in excess of over 200 promises. The economy was one of it, and we are committed to ensuring that we handle it in a way that will be satisfactory to all. He questioned the interventions we have done in that field. He ought to know better that when it comes to the economy of our country, one fundamental role a government must do is to inject confidence. And the budget we presented was one key way of injecting the confidence that they had eroded in the last
18 months. Go along that line, then you know you are just agreeing with him.
No.
Because
he asked of the policies we implemented.
Hamza,
yes.
First of all, he didn't abandon that title. He did not say at any point that he's no longer an economist.
He did.
Right?
Unless, of course,
he was pushing the agenda of digitalization. Doesn't mean that he threw away the gown of an economist.
He did.
Secondly, the thing he said that I think I remember vividly is saying that it is not based on policies that you've implemented, but things that you've sort of talked about. So if you're saying that the budget statement and the confidence in the economy, that's just one of it, yeah.
Yes, but it doesn't mean that's not all.
If you go along that line of argument, you just may be agreeing with him.
No, it's not true. He said that we've not implemented any policy. Remember that in 2014, as part of our homegrown policies, we intended to inject some confidence and ensure policy credibility under His Excellency President Mahama. If you badly injure an economy, the first task of a new government is to re-inject that level of confidence to give policy credence or integrity to the policies that are implemented. And secondly, Sweetie, we stopped the gold for oil program in March, remember? But in his presentation, he made reference to the gains of the gold for oil program. But we know that it led to unimaginable and unforgivable losses as far as the books of the Bank of Ghana. So the stoppage of that policy is clearly a policy intervention. After the stoppage somewhere in 3rd March, having to started seeing appreciation in terms of the Ghanaians.
The governor himself
on top of that, the government has also introduced the policy rate. We have increased it from 27 to 28. So if you give me the opportunity, I can name
I'm happy to listen
the
to
policies that we have rolled out.
Thank you. So I'm saying that the governor explains the economic gains, and when we get to the newspapers, we'll get that as well.
Thank you.
Nanaya Sapong, what's on your mind this morning?
Siri, thank you very much, and a good morning to you. Brother Hamza. What's on my mind this morning actually has to do with patriotism, right? I think that we have gotten to a point where we should push the NCC and the other institutions and bodies like the GES and religious bodies like our churches and our Islamic clergy to begin to push and incorporate a comprehensive lessons and teachings in our everyday lives that has to do or would go in line with patriotism. When I was coming, I was listening to your news bulletin and what was happening in some parts of the Ashanti region and even here in Greater Accra, where some transport operators have decided to also develop their own ways and means of still making the end consumer pay extra for fares or their services. Once the government has been able to deal with the issues of the forex and the prices of petroleum products are down, and they themselves, the GPRT and other transport operators together have decided to reduce transport fares by 15%. I think we should all obey. We should all try to come together to ensure that the livelihood of people are more comfortable. I mean, nobody was against them increasing the fares when the prices of the operational activities were high. Now that it has come down they should also at least respect us and keep the new prices. And individuals will go this tangent when they do not have, or they do not have in them, patriotism, when they do not have in them the thinking about the nation moving forward. But indeed, if you think about the nation well and you have the people at heart, even if you're a private operator, you will think about your brothers and your sisters who are out there.
Thank you so much. So let's get into the papers. I want to start with Hamza because he's on fire this morning. Hamza, let's get into your newspapers first.
Okay. And that happens to be the first story.
Yeah.
CD stability will continue. Bank of Ghana assures.
Okay.
Story on page 2, 3, and 5.
Just a little detail. I mean, I know the story, but for the benefit of our audience, yeah, the governor has been explaining what's actually causing the gains we are seeing with the CD.
Yeah, so like I indicated in my initial submission, because I'm pretty much convinced that what seemed to be the cornerstone of the expectation of the Ghanaian people has to do with their economic livelihoods. Yeah. We all were unfortunately subjected to the problematic economic choices of the last regime. And with a new government that has been tasked the mandate of turning things around, I think that these are positive signals that we must commend. And like I have indicated before, you need to understand that in terms of the interventions that the government, the Bank of Ghana, monetary policy seem to be champion in terms of the policy rate. They moved it, I'm told, from 27, and I hope I got that right, to about 28. And so all intended to mop out excess liquidity in the system to ensure that we are able to effectively manage our inflationary rate, and that possibly would have an impact on our exchange rate stability. So it is reassuring to hear that it has been retained, or there are steps to retain the policy to more or less cushion or complement government's fiscal consolidation efforts.
Right.
Like, again, sweetie, you see, like I indicated, gold for oil. Unfortunately, so much resources were wasted at the back of that, to a point that even the Auditor General, in his 2024 audit report, flagged the operations of gold for oil and indicated that it lacked credibility and integrity. But this was a policy spearheaded by His Excellency Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. We did not say that. The Auditor General, who is at post, was now appointed by His Excellency
Hamza,
John
can you just give me a line also from the... That's a Daily Democrat you have?
Yes.
Yeah, so we know that what the governor has said, at least, before we go
The Bank of Ghana says it will intensify key reforms to consolidate recent gains made by the city, which has appreciated by nearly 13% year to date. The rally of the local currency, the bank says, has been largely driven by coordinated fiscal discipline and tight monetary policy measures. Okay. So basically, that is the anchor of the economic or the monetary policy agenda of this new Bank of Ghana governor. And so clearly, sweetie, this is a government that is working. This is a government that is introducing policies to ensure that we strengthen our city. And like I stated earlier, stoppage of the gold for oil program is a major policy. Because when it was stopped on the 3rd of March, we began to appreciate the relevance of that decision in terms of our exchange rate appreciation.
All right.
Again...
Now, you've made all these points in defense of, I mean, basically saying that it's the work that you have done in these few months that you've been in office. Some of them too were, started and
unlike them.
Hamza, you have to let me get some words in before you go on. Yeah, calm down for me this morning. So it's a mixture of so many things, okay? But let's move the conversation forward. We've listened to you expatiate on what you think is causing the appreciation of the cedi. But you have to give us the stories on the front page, all of them, and then we can pick the ones that we want to discuss so that we all follow you. Okay.
I respect that.
All right, let's go. So the stories on the front page, there are a number of headlines there.
I thought, so I'm supposed to read
You only landed on the one that you wanted to do.
And you asked me to do that, to be fair, and I did.
I mean, what other stories are there on the front page?
You have Pay Us Our Money. EC contract workers, media houses, chased in Mensa. Which page is that? I can't seem to find the page.
this something that hasn't come to your, your attention, haven't been brought to yet?
As a government?
Yes, as a government.
And
this is not now. This is
it
coming
is
from
not
election
now,
2024.
but one thing you need to appreciate that the Electoral Commission is an independent body.
I know, but are you not concerned at all that people who worked for the Electoral Commission...
We are, as a government, we are concerned.
The same election that brought you into power, these
Absolutely.
people are still saying, pay us our money 6 months or 5 months down the line.
Sweetie, it is within their right to demand. So, because the Electoral Commission presented a budget that was funded by the then government. So if there are issues about failure to pay their contract workers, they must be committed to the contract they signed with them. And if there are any financial challenges that they feel that the government needs to come in, nothing should prevent the Electoral Commission from doing the needful by reaching out to government to ensure that certain releases are made so that they can at least live up to the expectation of this contractual obligation.
Does that mean they haven't made such an appeal?
I do not have any evidence.
You don't know
I
yet.
do not have any evidence of that, so clearly. But we know that a budget was submitted, and we're made to understand that for the first time, their demands were all fulfilled, even before the new government came into office.
It's a good time to usher in Kwesi Boche. He's from the NPP Communications Directorate. Mr. Boche, welcome to the program.
Good morning. Good to be here.
Okay, so we're just discussing some of the stories in the newspapers. We started with the economy and the CD making gains, and we've been explaining who's taking credit for it. But then there's also the story that Hamza just touched on about the contract workers who worked for, well, not necessarily for the Electoral Commission, those who worked for during the election haven't been paid yet, and they're demanding their money. I want to skip Nanaya and come to you. And first of all, give us any reflections you may have on any topical issue, and then that story.
Good morning to you. Good morning to panel members, Nanaya and Council.
You have to speak up for me.
And good morning to your cherished viewers. I think that it is fair that the contract workers for the Electoral Commission, get paid. I believe that every single person in this country deserves fair compensation or a monument for or allowances for whatever job they do for the state. And so it is fair that we all advocate and add our voices to the fact that they deserve to be paid. And so I think the government should pay attention to them, allocate the necessary funds for the Electoral Commission to enable them pay, these
You see, the government should. Hamza is just telling us that if they'd come to them to make such a request, they would have maybe expedited, made it happen. But
I am
it
sure,
appears the Electoral Commission has not actually taken that initiative to request money. And we don't even know for sure if they're facing any financial challenges. What are they saying on this? Does the story say, hold on a second, Hamza, does the story say whether the EC has responded to these lamentations from these workers?
Quite a long story, though.
Okay. Don't worry, I can bring you some details. I'll find the details for you later. Please finish your submission.
Yes, so I think the government should probably sit down with the Controller and Accountant General, should sit down with the Electoral Commission to see how best they can resolve this matter, for these young people to also at least benefit from their sweat. And what was the other topic?
The CD gain, the gains that the CD is making.
I mean, on this subject matter,
Dr. Baumia says it's not because of any policy direction or policy implemented. Hold for me. And he's saying that it's not about things that the NDC government, NDC administration have sort of talked about. And I'm quoting him here. Not something they've sort of talked about, but so it's about what they started during their tenure. That's the result we're seeing right now. And you say?
And I say I agree with Dr. Baumia perfectly, because, you see, the NDC is failing to tell us the exact measure, the exact thing they've done to stabilize the city.
Actually, they have been saying a lot.
What have they been saying? Gold board?
Yes.
You see, the issue about gold board is that it is true that gold board may be a fantastic initiative. And I agree the gold board, I've looked at their act, their legal
and that's just one of those things.
It may be a fantastic, but the current stabilization of the city cannot be attributed to the work of the gold board. You know why? The gold board bill or act itself was accented to on 2nd April 2025, just some 49 or 50 days ago. In 2023, our gold reserves stood at about 8.1 tons. As of December 2024, the gold reserves stood about 31.37 tons thereabout. Currently, it stands about 33 tons. And so it cannot be the case that it is Gold Board that has, done sort of some magic for the cedi to stabilize. I do not agree. I believe that, yes, the Gold Board may be a good initiative to help strengthen our currency. But currently, that is not the reason why. There are several factors that have contributed to the current stabilization.
Exactly, and they're also saying that they've injected some confidence into the system, and so that's another one.
I mean,
from the budget presentation
that may be fair. That may be fair,
okay.
But ultimately, we cannot say that it is entirely this government that has done anything extraordinary to see the cedi, stabilize. I feel at least the SYL administration deserves some credit. Pundits of the incumbent government talk about the fact that they're good for. In fact, I have even heard the president himself acknowledge the fact that when they assumed office, they realized that the SYL administration had, invested hugely in our gold reserves, and so it is only fair. It is only fair that at least the SYL administration is giving some form of credit to the stabilization of the city. But ultimately, I agree, and I concede that if anything happens, any good thing happens during the tenure of any administration, the credit ultimately goes to the government of the day. But in the prevailing circumstances,
same way you are attributing doomsday to the government
absolutely,
of the day,
but
they are taking credit for this, and you're saying that it's not entirely their doing.
But you see,
isn't that a bit disingenuous?
That is not disingenuous. In the prevailing case, with regards to the stabilization of the city, you realize that the SYL government started from somewhere. This government also took up the gold for oil policy. Road were there for a while. And now we've seen our city gain some strength. That's why I'm saying that at least if you look at it in its entirety, the SYL administration at least deserves some credit.
Exactly. All right. Nana, I'm coming to you now for your reflections on this. But as at 3rd April 2025, the Electoral Commission released a statement, payment of allowances, and it was addressed to all temporary staff Electoral Commission and signed by Mrs. Jean Mensah herself. And the letter was sort of assuring them that they will be paid over time. I want to just get a bit out there. It says, we will endeavor to make prompt payments to you as soon as funds are released by the ministry. This means that they're still waiting on the funds from the ministry. I really do not know, and hopefully we can get some clarity on this in the course of the day. But yeah, so that's the latest update we have from the Electoral Commission in terms of unpaid allowances and
that letter
fees from those. Yeah, that was last month.
That letter has been released, and they've been talking about it for months now. I mean, but sweetie, we were all in Ghana when Madame Jane mentioned that government then, before the election, had released every single funds that they needed to use for the elections. And I do not think that the payments for the part-time workers or temporal workers of the EC were not part of their budget. If it were, then going by her words, it means that they would have had the money before. So if she doesn't have the money to pay them, then she should have come to tell Ghanaians that she had a fully funded budget. If you tell me you have a fully funded budget, it means that the releases have been granted and the monies have been given to you. So, you see, we do not play politics.
They can make an allocation for, something in the budget. No, it's not semantics. Nanayao. She said, I just quoted her, that they're waiting for the release of the funds. So maybe it was allocated
before this letter.
Yeah.
We all understand allocations. We all understand releases. But before this letter, the EC had been granting interviews before 2024 elections. And they had stated that they had a fully funded budget. Me, I'm a roadside student. When you tell me you have a fully funded budget, they are lawyers. They say they speaking. They should explain to us what is a fully funded budget. That's it. It's simple. So you don't come and then you come back and tell me another story that you are waiting for a release.
Right.
I mean, that is, she should find money and pay them. But moving forward, I just want to, there are two lawyers. I want to find out if we have what we call pre-incorporation activities.
Wait, are you a lawyer?
Right. Yeah.
Right, okay.
Do we have something like that, pre-incorporation activities?
Yeah. Yes.
So that you can have a company that you want to form, it can undertake activities, and the activities will be accepted when they're after. So it means that Gold Board had started its activities prior to the bill and the acts being adopted in April. So the activities of the Gold Board cannot just be limited to when the bills and the acts.
Right.
You understand me? So if that is okay, then let us all accept the fact that the activities of Gold Board goes beyond this April that Butchie is talking about. Now, number two, what we should be thinking about and be discussing is how to sustain these gains. How to harness the gains that we have made in this short while. Sweetie, we have this Gold Board activities that has increased the reserves. And I had stated, and I still stand by it, before the elections, that if we wanted to deal with the issues of Forex and our economy, there are some sectors of the economy that the government should make conscious effort to control. And I give an example like the gold market. If we are able to have a government that makes conscious effort to have an absolute control, then we will be able to make some gains. You understand me? Fortunately, the government came, they decided to control the gold market. They have been able to introduce some activities within the fiscal discipline that is also helping. They have introduced new monetary policies that is helping. The liquidity sterilization that we have now, sweetie, is also contributing to the fact. Let's not also rule out the fact the Cold War that is happening in the world market between the US and the China. Of course, they are all gains. We should be able to make gains out of all of these things that are happening. And so what we should be thinking about is how we can have an opportunity to push in a comprehensive import substitution strategy so that, sweetie, at this moment, we are able to reduce drastically imports and then push in more into manufacturing and industrialization. And then we can move forward. Because you see, where we are today, if we are not able to make gains out of what is happening now, tomorrow, we would come and sit around this table and cry.
In fact, I've heard many economists say that it's not about the CDs making gains and we should be celebrating that. It's about sustainability.
It's about
stability, sustainability, and not
and so
that.
When I hear the two political parties try to play politics with who should be praised or who should take credit for what is happening, then I laugh. They should rather be thinking about bringing on board ideas and strategies to sustain it. Because tomorrow, now when they were talking, they came and they were talking politics. Ghanaians are talking through me.
We are all talking politics.
I'm not talking politics.
But what are you talking about?
You are not particularly neutral. You are political assistant to Alan Shomante.
And you are champion.
The former trade minister.
Movements for change.
But the former trade minister.
You're even in yellow. Afrafranto. So what are you talking about?
Why is your producer? Why are you people?
He's very the truth. Nanaya is not neutral. He's political.
Your colleagues are coming for you. Land on your point.
See, what I'm saying is, sweetie, our economics, who are the academics, the captains of industries, and we should be having a national dialogue on the sustainability of the city, the city gains, so that we do not come back tomorrow here to have the same political discussion.
All right, thank you. Hamza, let's get into maybe one more story in any of the papers you have, and then I'll move on.
With your permission, before that, it is important for me to set the record straight. I think that unlike what happened in the past, you have not seen this government or the Ministry of Finance, for that matter, organize Kinky Party or Wachi Party at the Finance Ministry to celebrate.
Well, not yet.
Because we know that at the end of the day, we will not be measured just by the performance of the exchange rate. There are so many economic indicators that the Ghanaian people are looking up to. And I made that point very clear. And that is why we are moderate, even in terms of our celebration, as far as this gain is concerned. It was Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia who sought to berate the government and question the kind of policy interventions that we rolled out to ensure that level of stability. And I'm glad that one of his spokespersons agree on this platform that indeed many of the measures that we introduced contributed to the stability of the city, contrary to the allegation of Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia to the effect that we did nothing. It should be clear that undoubtedly this government has done something in that regard. And Nana, when we say so, it does not mean that we are overly excited about these gains, because we know that at the end of the day, the sustainability is critical for the people of the country, and most importantly, for the legacy of His Excellency President John Dramani Mahama. And we can assure you.
Of course,
for the sake of time,
yes,
that's
but I
can assure you,
I appreciate the manner in which was it in the new Bank of Ghana governor? What's his name again? I always forget his name.
Isiama. Yeah, Dr. Johnson Isiama.
Johnson Isiama. I appreciate the way and manner in which he's handling the excitement out there.
And the finance minister.
All right, and the finance minister. At least I appreciate it, so that we do not do politics with it. I am just inviting on board captains of industries, because they are out there. They understand what is on the field.
And I stop on points made. Gentlemen, we have to manage the time.
It's
when I come back to you,
let me just make a quick point. Let me just make a. You see, the NDC is trying very hard to credit the finance minister for the gains the city has struggled in the last few days. But you see, a few days ago or a few weeks ago, we were made to believe that Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, as vice president, was responsible for the stabilization of our currency. And today, if our currency is being stabilized and has gained any strength, the credit needs to go to, if there's any credit, it needs to go to Professor Nana Jeno-Poku-Adjei, and not to Forcing and the BOG governor. Because if we were made to believe, that it is the duty of Dr. Bawumia to stabilize the city, it is only fair. It is only fair. It is only fair. It is only fair that at least we credit Nana Jane with some, you know, some.
Can I go to my mind? Yes, let's go to
Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia.
I'm saying that we are doing this for our audience. And we're leaving it for them at this point.
If your accumulation of reserves of 31 did not show any tangible recovery.
Hamza.
Oh, it did.
Hamza.
What tangible recovery? No, it did. We're Ghanaians celebrating. We're Ghanaians celebrating.
So even your president
did they wake up on daily basis?
Your president has acknowledged that it did.
Let me get into the Ghanaian Daily Graphic now. Governor explains economic gains. And on the CJ impeachment, Supreme Court throws out another injunction. Oh my God, we are getting into this one now. On the removal of beggars, Ghana, GIS repatriates 925 people. Arrest put on hold for lack of space. Let's get straight into the story on page 13. That is the impeachment of the Chief Justice. Now, Supreme Court throws out another injunction, and the Chief Justice, Gertrude Torkonoo, has filed a lawsuit at the Supreme Court challenging her suspension by President John Dramani Mahama. In a writ filed yesterday by her lawyer, Godfrey Adame, a former Attorney General, the Chief Justice is seeking declarations from the Supreme Court that her suspension, as well as the impeachment process against her, are unconstitutional and therefore null and void. Now, this has taken a very interesting turn. The Chief Justice is going before her colleagues now to plead her case, because they've thrown out that application seeking to pause or hold that process, that committee, from probing the matter further. And now the Chief Justice has taken the former Attorney General as her, should I call it, private solicitor? You are the lawyers. You can help me with the right term here. Everything has become very interesting at this point. And now I want to hear you out, Hamza.
Sweetie, from the...
She says unconstitutional, null and void.
Yes, you see, but it is important for you to deal with two aspects. The first being the politics of the matter, and secondly, the legalities. You remember, from day one, we insisted that His Excellency President Mahama was acting on the basis of petitions filed by citizens of this country under Article 146 of the 1992 Constitution. His Excellency President Mahama had no choice but to do the needful in compliance with that Article 146, and also to a very large extent in compliance with a constitutional responsibility placed on him under Article 58 to exercise executive authority in the name of the Republic, to forward that particular petition to the Council of State, based on which, together, they can reach a prima facie determination. When those processes were activated and adhered to, we were made to understand that the NDC and President John Dramani Mahama was simply engaged in a political move to oust the Chief Justice. And we stated categorically that these were constitutional injunctions that the president had no choice than to fulfill. And I remember, sweetie, that we even made the point that under His Excellency President John Dramani Mahama, when the same NPP filed petitions against Laureate Lamte of Shiraj, an appointee of President Mahama took Laureate Lamte through similar processes, and that led to her suspension by President Mahama and her eventual sacking. These were petitions filed by the MPP operatives and senior members of the MPP then. The same President Mahama, in adhering to our constitutional provisions, respected it.
Okay.
And that was why we said that if there was any political coloration, it was the conduct of the MPP, because if you remember, they were the first to organize press conferences in defense of the said Chief Justice. And before we could say Jack, the same Godfrey Dami was the one who led Vincent Asafua, another Sinti NPP MP, to Parliament, or to the courts, to challenge the decisions of His Excellency President Mahama and the Council of State on behalf of the disgruntled Chief Justice or suspended Chief Justice. You see, so that was where the politics started coming in. Are we therefore surprised that we wake up to one beautiful morning, another writ filed in the Supreme Court of our country, and the lawyer incidentally happens to be the same Godfrey Dami that people had concerns with, especially when he was the Attorney General, in terms of his relationship with the suspended Chief Justice. Okay. What more evidence do you need to say that possibly the contents of the petitions is beginning to manifest itself even before the committee begins
your posturing is...
So my point is that on the politics aspect, if there's anybody giving this matter a political coloration, it is the conduct and shameful, unacceptable and worrying posture of the NPP and that of Godfrey Dami in particular. Because it gives credence to the perception that there was an unholy union between Godfrey Dami and the current Chief Justice. Why? Is Godfrey Dami the only lawyer that the Chief Justice could have relied upon?
In fact, as you are calling it shameful and all those adjectives, Godfrey Dami yesterday also said it's erroneous to think that his role as Torkonoo's lawyer in injunction application against the probe affects the optics.
No, but that is the point I'm making. That's why in my introduction, sweetie, I said that there are two wings.
I'm saying that you say that what they're doing right now, the politics, they are the ones giving it a political coloration. But he's saying that as a former Attorney General, there's nothing wrong if he decides to help out or, be the lawyer for the Chief Justice.
Legally.
Because someone has to.
Yes. But sweetie, legally, that's why I made the point that there are two strands to the matter. Politics and the legalities. Legally, as a lawyer and as a practitioner, there's absolutely nothing wrong for him to play that role.
All right.
But we are talking about the political, yes. But we are talking about the political optics. Okay. And the perception. That is why it has found its way to our headlines.
So hold for me.
Clearly, perception-wise, is bad.
Okay, thank you for those. I saw Nanayao and Kwesi scribbling seriously. So who's going first? Let's listen to Kwesi Butchie.
Thank you very much. I think I would also start from where Council landed, saying that this matter has both the political side and the legal side.
Indeed.
If there is any person or any group of persons that has politicalized this entire CJ matter, obviously it's the NDC. You have the NDC in opposition, advocating and campaigning that when the good people of this country vote for them, they were confident and determined to remove the CJ. In fact, when they want power, you have the likes of their Deputy General Secretary and other members go on TV, state categorically and emphatically that the NDC as a political party is determined to remove Gertrude Torkonoo as the Chief Justice of the Republic of Ghana. And so this entire matter cannot be isolated from the background, cannot be isolated from the politicalization, even before the NDC won the 2024 election. And so it is the NDC that has politicalized. In fact, the entire removal is an orchestrated political agenda. Let's put it that way.
Pardon my foggy memory. Name one of such government officials
I have just referred to
publicly
I've
to
just referred Mustafa Bandi. I've just mentioned Mustafa
and
Bandi.
he said that they want to the chief
exactly. They were going to move. He said, "Do you want me to mention the station? Do you want me to mention?"
No, I don't mind.
He said it on TV3.
Okay.
I watched him live.
They want to remove
that they were going to remove the chief justice.
Okay.
And so, if you have members of, the leading members of the NDC make such public statement, it tells you the kind of predetermined mind they have in removing the CJ. Now, as to whether or not Godfrey Dame is supposed to be the CJ's lawyer or otherwise, Council admitted and considered that legally there's nothing wrong with it. The Supreme Court is a court of law, it's not a court of politics. The Supreme Court doesn't do MPP NDC. We go to the Supreme Court to speak law. And so if there is nothing legally wrong with Godfrey Dame representing the CJ, then the argument by counsel is entirely flawed. You cannot say that there was an unholy relationship between, granted without admitting that there was an unholy relationship between Godfrey Dame and the CJ. That is not even part of the claim of the petitioners. And so let us face the details of the matter. Let us look at the substance of the matter and stop playing petty politics with every matter. In any case, every individual in this country is entitled to a lawyer of his or her choice. Council doesn't determine who becomes the CJ's lawyer. It is not within your mandate and your purview to determine that. Okay. Let's leave that solely to the CJ to determine. The CJ is a woman of substance. She's been a lawyer for over 32 years plus. She knows what she's about. Let's allow her to engage a lawyer of her choice. In any case, Godfrey Dame is no longer the Attorney General. Now he's a private legal practitioner like myself and my learned colleague. And so let us respect the choice of the CJ. But you see, if you look at the details of the injunction application filed by the CJ yesterday, the CJ is basically asking for about just 3 things. One, for the to waive her rights under Article 1466 of the 1992 Constitution to enable the matters of the committee to be held in the full glare of the public for you media people to cover for everybody to see. Number 2, she's calling for the suspension of her suspension. I mean, she's calling on the Supreme Court. And then the third one is to also injunct certain members of the committee, And I agree with the details of the CJ's suit. You know why? Because you have certain members of the panel who have already, sat on matters similar to the current, matters before the committee or the current matters before the committee to look at. And so it is only fair that we bring people who are unbiased to look into the matter.
So now the Chief Justice is saying she doesn't want a case where there's some sort of conflict of interest because of the nature of the people who are going to hear her case.
Right.
Correct?
Right.
And we are also asking that if you're using a lawyer, Attorney General, who was under your administration, the same time that we are saying that they brought issues against you during that time, is that not also conflict of interest? So you are saying that you don't want certain persons to sit on my case because they may have some sort of vendetta against me, if you may.
No, that's not what she said. No, that's not what she said.
I said that's not what she said. I'm not quoting anyone verbatim, right? You're saying that these people are probably biased. They may not be fair to me. But you bring in a lawyer who also brings in the optics of NPP is aligned with the suspended Chief Justice. Is that also not conflict of interest? How are you asking for one thing and in one breath and in the other one, you are saying the exact same thing doesn't apply to you?
Godfrey Dame is not an adjudicator. Godfrey Dame is the advocate of the CJ. There is no conflict of interest in here. It would have been a matter of conflict of interest if the matters under scrutiny or under probe has anything to do with Godfrey Dame. In this case, the matters under scrutiny or probe, nobody has mentioned that, the CJ should be removed by virtue of the fact that the CJ had ABCD dealings with the former Attorney General. That is not part of the issues under interrogation. And so
you're all talking about optics. The Chief Justice.
I am not talking about optics. I'm talking about law. I'm talking about the details of the petition. I'm talking about the details of the injunction.
Biases,
I am not talking about optics.
The people who are
when you talk about optics, optics is perception. It depends on how you see it. I mean, optics may not necessarily be the reality. But let us face the reality.
Let me
respectfully. Let's face the reality.
Just 1 second. Godfrey Dame, is former Attorney General
Perfect.
under the erstwhile administration.
Right.
The Chief Justice has been suspended, and we are hearing her case based on the things she did in that administration,
Right.
correct? So if
During
you
her tenure,
during her
not
tenure,
in that exactly.
Fine,
Yeah.
during her tenure. If you're bringing the former Attorney General to come and plead your case, so to speak, does that not give the impression that both of you are in cahoots, or both of you are in bed together in some way?
It depends on how you want
if
to
you
see
say no, that's fine.
It depends on. Allow me
you have to manage
explain.
the time. You've been speaking for 6 minutes now. Nana Yasapo.
Yes, sweetie, so let's get this straight. I hear political commentators say that the case that we are having with the CJ is in two folds. We have the political phase and we have the
legal phase.
I beg to differ. This is purely constitutional. This is purely legal. There is nothing political about this. There is a provision in the Constitution, Article 144, that deals with the appointment of the justices and the whatever we have in our courts, yeah? And there is another provision in the Constitution, 146, that deals with the removal of these same justices when they go wrong or when we think that they do not deem fit to be in the position in which they are. And there is a specific one, 1466, that deals strictly with that of the Chief Justice. Now, is there a tenure of office for the Chief Justice in our Constitution?
Not really.
There is a tenure.
There is? Okay.
What are the terms of reference of the tenure? Now, as part of her tenure in office, is there a provision that can make us remove her as Chief Justice, or her position as Chief Justice is perpetual? If it is not perpetual, and there can be a provision that can be triggered for her removal, then we have not done any wrong. Now, who triggers it? They say it is called a petition by someone. Has there been a petition? Is there a petitioner? If yes, have we gone through the procedures of that provision or that particular clause in the Constitution that seeks or would want to take her out of office? Has there been a breach of that? I am not a lawyer, and I think we should they are lawyers. I am not, me and you, we are not lawyers. But there is something called the 1992 Constitution that you don't need to go to heaven to be able to understand the English that is written in there. Sometimes when they want to confuse us, they will say there is a spirit in the body. The thing is written black and white.
But do you get his argument?
Now,
His argument.
please, I am
just
making
on
my
the point you are making, I just want you to factor it in, right? He's saying that in as much as we are going with the rule of law, what the Constitution says, members of this administration have sat on national television to say that they want to remove the Chief Justice.
That is their wish.
And that is...
Please, that is their wish, but
that's commentary.
Is it constitutional? You understand me? There is a president who is just 5 months in office. Do they not wish that that president goes?
Do you wish that president would go?
No, I mean, he should enjoy his full term. I don't wish he goes.
Of course.
Going may mean a lot of things. And so,
let's
be mindful.
Now, 3 things I want to know. Now, the petition that was sent, or the claims that were made by the Chief Justice, in my view, this is my thinking, this is going to create what we call a constitutional embarrassment. I mean, for heaven's sake, sweetie, what is the grounds to go and want to remove or petition for an injunction or removal of members of the committee that is sitting on your case? And the explanation is that they have sat on cases like that before. So where lies experience? Let us not forget that the committee is not a jury. That you would say that they should not be lawyers, or they shouldn't have sat on such cases before. Is the committee a jury? No. In any case, does the Constitution name explicitly persons or officers that can be appointed onto the committee? It's clearly stated in the 1466. Right. The number of them that should be Supreme Court judges, who should be the chairman, and the other members of the committee. That is what it is. Number 2, The Chief Justice, Madame Torkonoo, seeks to waive the right that it should be in camera. Am I right? That's the claim. That right is not to her person. That right is to the office. Okay, so she seeks to waive that right of the office or her person. They are two different people. You have yours as an individual, Madame Torkonoo, and then the office as a Chief Justice. And the Constitution does not talk about Madame Torkonoo. It talks about the office of the Chief Justice. Okay. So that one, you see, and then surprisingly, you would want to waive, you want them to suspend your suspension. Let's not forget that the suspension of the office of the Chief Justice or her from office as Chief Justice is part of the provision of the Constitution in the procedure to her removal. And this one, and that is why I'm saying that this whole technicalities, what is the name, dummy wants to bring on board, it's a constitutional embarrassment.
You know what I see? We are never able to discuss legal matters when it comes to whatever administration is in office, right?
No,
because of the NDC and
it's not because of the
politics that
because of their selfish interest in
manipulating
to say
the
Constitution
clearly
we all
on legal
hear.
terms or clearly based on the rule of law. And that's our problem right now.
Of course.
Hamza, I know you want to reflect. When we are getting your final remarks, I'll get in. I need to get some of the stories out there quickly because we are pressed for time. On the back page of the Daily Graphic, drivers, commuters react to 15% fare reduction. And on Accra's decongestion exercise, regional minister to reactivate task force. What do you make of this ongoing Accra decongestion exercise, Kwesi Botwe? I've heard so many people say this is not the first time we are seeing a mayor in the first year.
Can I clear something quickly before I come to the decongestion exercise? Quickly.
I'm going back to
you see.
Let me allow it. Hamza, don't worry. I'll give you, let's do 2 minutes for this.
You see,
all right.
The point is that the NPP doesn't speak for the CJ. The NPP is against the illegality and the unconstitutionality being perpetrated by the president. You see, Nana talks about Article 146. Article 146 is very clear. And Article 146, despite being clear, is also a gray area which is of interest to lawyers and students of law. Remember the case of Watadei provided the principle, the case of, there are so many cases that have provided principles. But if you look at Article 14610,
what was the ruling in the Batageri case?
Hold on.
No, I mean, before
the president,
will know.
Actually, I'll allow it because I allowed you. So
I'll answer the question, but let me land with my point. Before the president can suspend the Chief Justice, the powers under Article 14610 is discretionary. If you look at the wording of the context of the Article 146, it's only discretionary that the president may. It is not mandatory for the president to suspend the Chief Justice upon the determination of a prima facie case. The president may. Now, when it comes to matters of discretionary, it is guided by same constitution at Article 296 of the Constitution that provides at C that the president, not the president, but any person exercising a discretionary power, where the person is not a judge or a judicial officer, there ought to be, or there must be, a legislative or a constitutional instrument regulating the exercise of such discretionary power. Now, in this context, or in the prevailing case, there is no such constitutional or legislative instrument regulating the present discretionary power under Article 14610 to suspend the Chief Justice.
All right.
So that is the point. But you see...
Gentlemen, you get your turn. Hold on. I know he said some things that we all want to bite into.
I want to bite because
you've not gotten
back.
Nana Sapon, I'll come back to you in a second. Hamza, your take now.
First of all,
I thought you gave me 2 minutes. I'm just speaking for about.
Let's do all this in 2 minutes, please. We have to go. Yeah.
You see, first of all, we must be careful of the legal principles we throw out. Just yesterday, on that same particular legal principle of the president's exercise or decision to take advantage of Article 146, Clause 10. The likes of Bonfred, or what's his name?
Yeah.
They were in court challenging the decision of the president to suspend in line with Article 146, Clause 10. And the Supreme Court was clear in its ruling that indeed it was constitutional and there was no need for a constitutional instrument. And there are a litany of cases That establishes.
It was the injunction, not the substantive matter.
I know we are
indicating
the
for the audience, for
it is the
benefit of
injunction.
I'm reading it now.
Yeah,
so
it is the injunction.
So clause 10 says, where a petition has been referred to a committee under this article, the president may,
exactly, that's discretionary.
In the case of the Chief Justice, acting in accordance with the advice of the Council of State by warrant signed by him, suspend the Chief Justice. So exactly what did he do wrong here?
Are you going back
to the context of the word is may? It is may.
Okay,
it is discretionary. Even if it's discretionary, then the provisions of Article 296 must be adhered to. That's all I'm saying.
Come on. I am saying that it is not for you to sit in this chair and determine an interpretation to Article 14610. That decision was re-emphasized by the Supreme Court yesterday that the president
We listen to you, please. Let's listen to him. Yeah.
That decision was challenged in 2 cases filed at the Supreme Court yesterday. And the Supreme Court said that the president had done nothing wrong in his exercise of that discretionary power, unless, of course, you did not follow. And I'm telling you that when it comes to the exercise of discretionary powers, there is, not discretionary powers, the executive power, there is absolutely no way that the Supreme Court will allow you to injunct that process. Because if we allow that, no president would be able to exercise executive authority. On daily basis, we have litany of cases in the Supreme Court challenging executive authority of His Excellency the President. That is why the Supreme Court in the past resisted the temptation to go on that tangent. And that is why yesterday they decided to uphold existing principles. So go back and review your legal knowledge when it comes to that. And finally, you see, Sweetie, what is the Chief Justice saying? That because the judges, some of them have handled cases involving some of the petitioners.
Or some of them are similarly aligned to the NDC party.
No, wait. So tomorrow, they should be recused from sitting on.
No, but that's not what the CJ is.
So tomorrow.
Wait, see, we have to respect our audience.
No, but that's not what the CJ says. The CJ hasn't said anything.
Are you the host of the
We listen. I mean, since that they mute your microphone, we listen to you. Let's listen to him too.
You see, for instance, because some of the judges have handled cases involving the petitioners in other matters, they should be prevented from being members of the committee. What kind of dangerous precedents is the Chief Justice trying to set for our legal system in this country? So tomorrow, Sweetie, if you go to court and Justice A.B. handles your case and you are not successful, and tomorrow the next day you go to the same court, and the Chief Justice empanels the same justice on another case that involves you, you are within your power to say that because you ruled against me in an earlier case, the judge should not be allowed to handle this my new case. What kind of precedence is that? And that is the kind of precedence she wants to set. And when it comes to the in-camera, like my brother indicated, it is not a position that is individualistic to her.
Okay.
It is about the office of the Chief Justice, and there's a reason why from day one the petitions must be done in camera.
All right.
She breached that particular provision by making or leaking the contents of the petitions that His Excellency President Mahama forwarded to her.
Please,
so I can assure you that even in that conduct, she breached our constitutional provisions when it comes to the in-camera
Thank
proceedings.
you.
So
Nana Asapo, it's your turn now.
Just a few seconds. Now,
and it is not also true that NDC official sat on national TV and called for the sacking of the
I asked him, just for clarity, he mentioned Mustafa Gbande.
Many NDC people called for a reset of the judiciary. That is not the same as calling for the dismissal of the Chief Justice.
All right, Nana.
1466 says that where the petition is for the removal of the Chief Justice, the President shall, acting in consultation with the Council of State, highlighted, appoint a committee, and they have named. Now let's come down. 7, it says that the committee appointed under clause 6 of this article shall inquire into the petition and recommend to the president whether the Chief Justice ought to be removed from office. Then when you have come to 10, it says that where the petition is been referred to a committee under this article, the president may, in the case of the Chief Justice, acting in accordance with the advice of the Council of State. So, in as much as it is discretional, it is upon the advice of the Council of State. So we should not just take it like it is just the president's discretion that he decides, wakes up from his bed and decides that, go, you are suspended. It is the advice of the Council of State. And now, you see, coming to the camera thing, there is this Article 8, clause 8,
all proceedings under this article shall be held in camera, and the justice or chairman against whom the petition is made is entitled to be heard in his defense by himself or by a lawyer. You understand me? So it is not the prerogative of the Chief Justice in her person to decide whether or not she wants to be heard in camera or not. Right. It is a constitutional provision.
Right.
You understand? So let us not create that atmosphere as though somebody is treating her unfairly. In any case, if she is not suspended, you know that she would have to empanel, and
judges who sit.
So she will now go and be a judge in her own case.
Okay.
Nana
Osapong, Hamza, and Mr. Butchie, thank you all so much
get the
for
opportunity
your time.
to clear one or two things?
No, please. And I want quick comment. We are off in 1 minute, but I want to take your comments on these two stories because they are bread and butter issues, and they affect real people here in Accra. So the decongestion exercise, and then drivers and commuters reacting to the 15% fare reduction. Anything beyond that, and we'll mute your microphone. Hamza, start.
Yes, I think that first of all, the importance of economic policy is the impact that it will have on the life of the people. And so if we are beginning to see a reduction in terms of fuel prices, it is only fair that we engage with the authorities of GPRTU to ensure that at least it begins to actually impact directly on the vulnerable, especially who take charge of these services. So I think that it is commendable. It's something that we must encourage. But when it comes to the issue of decongestion, I have cautioned that the authorities should make it more sustainable by engaging with the Ministry of Local Government, that of the Ministry of Transport in particular, and to a very large extent, Works and Housing, and National Security for that matter. Because you see, we've seen many political appointees announce their presence with decongestion, especially when it comes to Greater Accra. We saw it under the Dr. Alfred Vanderpoy, President Mills. We saw Henry Kweta and Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo. And of course, we are now seeing the new Accra mayor also coming out with similar steps. But my caution and my advice to him is that though commendable, but he must mirror the personality of His Excellency John Dramani Mahama. He's not a man who is committed to quick fixes. He's interested in sustainable fixes that would have long-standing implications for our overall development. And the only way to ensure that is to make sure that he collaborates with these ministries I mentioned earlier so that he can table it at cabinet and get the full support of the government to implement it holistically. Because if you go to the Ashaman area, it's also congested. So decongesting Accra alone is not enough. There's the need for us to give it a national face and have a strong backing, especially cabinet level, supporting that initiative. I'm sure that way His Excellency President Mahama will be more than committed supporting that initiative.
Judy, I think the decongestion that is happening, it should mirror in almost all our cities. And this should call for a national discourse into our engineering architecture. I believe that when you have decongested, what happens afterwards?
Well, he said they're going to station security officers there to ensure, and then give them one day or so in a week where they can come onto the streets and
we are
sell.
in a situation where we are not only dealing with the human congestion, we are also dealing with structural congestion. And it does not only mean that we want a flow of the traffic, but it's also an opportunity for us to also deal permanently, all right, sustainably with our flooding situations that we have in almost all our big cities. So it should call for a national discourse. Let our engineers sit down properly. Let us have a real look at how our structures and infrastructures are designed.
Mr. Boche, you have the last word.
Thank you very much. I think I have some few things to say, but unfortunately, I don't know. But Hamza has spewed a lot of inaccuracies. That if you allow me, I'll just clear the matter.
Exercise that's ongoing. Today is day 3.
I'm not going to what Hamza is saying. I'm just making a comment that we owe our audience the responsibility and duty to inform them on the exact matters happening at the Supreme Court and not to, mist twist and misinterpret whatever is happening at the Supreme. But if
Believe
you don't
it or
allow me,
not,
that's
our
fair.
audience are very discerning.
But if you don't allow me, that's fair.
And mostly
On the matter of the
they do their own
decongestion,
research and they know what's
on the matter
Yeah.
on the matter of the decongestion, I think it's a good thing. Every government since the government of President Nkrumah has engaged in decongestion exercises, and so I hope it will not be a 9-day wonder. I hope they will not sack them this week, and by next week, the traders will come back onto the street. And also, I'm just pleading with the AMA that yesterday I saw a video of some of the traders accusing members of the AMA taking monies from them and, you know, promising to help them come back to their old spots. And I think the AMA should, you know, put in place practical measures. And if we are sacking the traders from the street, we should also provide for, you know, market spaces for them to, in order to be able to transact their day-to-day activities.
Thank you so much. Happy birthday going out to 11-year-old Elsie Akolache of Springland International School in Klagon. May you continue to grow in grace, beauty, and love and wisdom. With love from your parents, auntie, and your entire family, they say happy birthday, Elsie Akolache. And this is coming from our director, Yao. That is Yao's niece, actually. Happy birthday, darling. Those who join us for the conversation this morning, Nanaya Sapong from the Movement for Change, Hamza Suini, lawyer and member of the NDC Communications
Proud
team,
member of the
and
NDC.
Kwesi Poche from the NPP Communications Directorate. Thank you so much, gentlemen. All right. When we return, we will bring you our big stories. The story on the suspension of the Chief Justice and all the arguments pouring in continues after this break. Welcome back to the AM show, sponsored by Waylead Properties. This is time for our big stories now. And what are we talking about, Benjamin?
Well, we're definitely contemplating that issue in respect of Chief Justice Gertrude Araba Esaba Saki Torkonoo jumping into the legal battle herself, filing for an interlocutory injunction at the Supreme Court to halt that ongoing process to remove her from office. There have been 2 interlocutory injunctions thrown out so far, one by a 3-2 decision, and yesterday, another one in a 4-1 decision, also dismissing the application. But hours after that, there was a fresh suit in the Apex Court. This morning, we're going to look at the twists and the turns of a Chief Justice seeking justice. We hear from some legal luminaries. First, joining the conversation, we have Kweku Paintil. He's a lawyer. Kweku, good morning.
Good morning.
It's good having you join this conversation. It's interesting because when we started off this conversation in the initial stages, you had quite a number of thoughts. Just for now, since you are the first to join the conversation, what do you make of how things have developed so far?
I would say it's very interesting. It's very interesting, and they're welcome developments. I mean, I think it is for the enhancement of our constitutional theory, development, application, whatever you want to call it. In other words, I believe that to deepen our constitutional democracy, that's what I think of what's going on now.
Okay, so it will deepen our constitutional democracy. There are a number of issues that have come up on the back of the 2 suits that the Apex Court did not reason with the suspended Chief Justice on. But if you look at this 3rd one, and the reliefs, the remedies that are sought, about 16 of them from the chambers of Godfrey Abuadame. What do you make of that as well?
Oh, I consider them very interesting, very challenging, and very engaging, because it is actually an attempt to get the Supreme Court to reflect upon our Constitution at the time that it was made, developments that have transpired thereafter, and whether the Constitution must be steeped in the grounds of 1992, when all these issues of internet and diverse information, wherever, was hardly an issue. And now, when you file a process, it is transmitted worldwide. and against the background of the supposed secrecy that processes and proceedings in the courts were supposed to be conducted. Against now that you file a process, everybody hears whether indeed there's a continuing need or justification for us to bind ourselves with the constitutional dictates or the requirement which intended that certain things must be done in utmost secrecy until the outcome or the results or the judgment. So that's the issue that is really now engaging our attention, whether there's a justification for anybody insisting that things must be done in camera. When before the camera hearing, everybody knows what is outside. It's a joke. I mean, that's my view. It's a complete joke for us to pretend that in the era that we find ourselves, anything can be done in secrecy at all. That's
that anything can be done in secrecy, but just because you made mention of that point, what does the Constitution say?
No, the law is clear, at least it's found in the Constitution. I'm not quoting provisions and whatever, but I'm very familiar with these things, that this type of proceedings ought to be heard in camera. And by camera hearing, it means that beyond and besides the persons and the judges who are directly involved, nobody must see the processes, nobody must comment on the processes, nobody must have a way of knowing what is going on, kind of. But that's very funny if you just oppose it into this, realities.
So do you think the existing realities, just before Sweetie comes in, the existing realities would be conducive for a public hearing of this nature, especially
so.
as
I honestly believe so, because everything is out in the press. Everything. Everything. So therefore, the pretense or the attempt to have an in-camera hearing is a joke. I mean, it's a joke. It's something that we are all pretending about. And I honestly believe that the request by the Chief Justice to have this matter heard, for everybody to know what is going on, to bring out into the public domain everything, so that at the end of the day, justice is for the people and by the people. Justice is for them. Everything that we do in the court is intended to buttress and to deepen their faith in our democracy. And indeed, the traditional rule against public hearings, where in matters that affect public decency, in other words, sexual, suits and the rape and things like that. But even now, judges are hearing some of these things in the public. Everything has changed over time. And I think that at the time that the 1992 Constitution, we may go back to 1992, see the background from which we came from and all of that. And in 1992, I don't even know, I don't believe 1992 I was an adult. I don't believe there was anything called internet. I don't believe there was anybody who contemplated, anticipated that time is going to come that anything can be broadcast from America to Ghana through, text and stuff like that. So, to the extent that we have a constitution that captured the events of 1992, it's about time that we told ourselves that any attempt by anybody to hold on to the forms and the substance of things in 1992 is a big joke. That's the long and short. And I understand Dami's application to reflect this sentiment, this feeling, that it's about time, even if the Constitution said it, everybody knows what is going on. Everything has been published. Look at the commentary. Indeed, as a matter of law, even all the publications that the people are making, it's against the constitutional provision itself. So what is the pretense? Why do we say that these things have to be done in camera when everybody is commenting, everybody is talking about it, when even matters that are in court traditionally, they are not for public discussion, they are not for public commentary. So what is it that we cannot do by not hearing this matter in public?
It's interesting. People will stretch it and ask you to what extent can't the public discuss it and what exactly are the stipulations of the Constitution. But Sweetie.
Yes, and Mr. Pencil, aside that one demand for in-camera hearing or not, A lot of arguments pouring in suggest that the Chief Justice's move to go to the Supreme Court backed by lawyers is a, quote, provocation. And I'm quoting former director of Ghana School of Law, Kweku Ansasari. He said the move is a provocation that flies in the face of constitutional governance. To which he's saying that she should have gone to the Judicial Council, not go to the Supreme Court backed by lawyers. Help me understand what's going on here.
You know, I found Kweku Ansasari's commentary very interesting. I mean, I find it very interesting. You know, life is dictated by circumstances, by things that are going on. And I don't even understand Kweku Ansasari's position at all. Because her office is at stake. It is true we've got a General Legal Council that has got a way of resolving matters. But this is a case where the president has made moves that are intended to remove her from office. When the president has invoked that power of his under the Constitution, which may lead to her, removal from office, I'm sorry to say that if Kweku Ansasari's argument is to suggest that the Chief Justice ought to go to the General Legal Council, I fear that there could be no legal basis for his suggestion at all.
In fact, he joins us on phone right now, and so let him respond to what you just said. Mr. Kweku Ansasari, thank you for joining the conversation.
Yes, madam. Welcome. Yes.
Is that Mr. Kweku Ansasari?
Yes, speaking.
Okay, we were just discussing the statements you made, I believe, yesterday on PM Express, describing the move of the suspended Chief Justice to go to the Supreme Court backed by lawyers as a provocation that flies in the face of constitutional governance. It doesn't appear Mr. Pencil agrees with you. Who just dropped the line? Oh, unfortunately, Mr. Pencil.
I am on it.
Mr. Pencil, go ahead. I wanted him to respond to what he just said, but he's dropped the line.
I really wish that he could defend his position with legal arguments, but right. I can only say that the Chief Justice has not committed any error, whether in procedure or in substance, of the law when she invokes the jurisdiction of the Supreme Court to make a determination on what the president has initiated against her. If at all, at the end of the day, when the Supreme Court delivered itself of its judgment in this matter, if for no reason at all, to serve as a precedent so that to guide us all, to guide all of us as to any future course. Don't forget that this is the first time that there has been any move under the 1992 Constitution to remove the Chief Justice from power. And therefore, as far as the legal precedence is concerned, within our jurisdiction, I would say that it's without precedent. But what happens in what's going on will serve as a great lesson for all of us. So for that reason alone, I think that there is some basis for the Chief Justice's action.
Okay. And Mr. Pencil, that's a great point to land because we have Mr. Kweku Ansasari back online. So, Mr. Kweku Ansasari, Mr. Pencil disagrees with you. Your response? Good morning. The question is, you said that the Chief Justice should not have gone to the Chief Justice's move, going to the Supreme Court backed by lawyers, is a calculated attempt to frustrate the committee's work. Mr. Kweku Pencil disagrees with you that there's no basis, there's nothing wrong. The process that the Chief Justice has employed so far, there's nothing wrong with what she's done. So help us understand your point. What you are calling a provocation that flies in the face of constitutional governance. What do you mean by that? We cannot hear you. Please unmute if you are muted.
It appears we're struggling with a connection to Kweku Ansasari. It would have been interesting to get what his thoughts are, especially on that issue of sort of triggering the committee that has been set up. But coming to you, back to you, I'm sorry I'm belaboring the point. If you look at the initial bid in respect of an in-camera hearing, is there any breach specifically? Kweku Pencil, just give me a straightforward answer. Per the Constitution, is there any breach?
Any what?
Any breach of the law?
No, I wouldn't say so. You know, these matters, this is not the first time that a matter affecting in-camera hearing has come up where the public have already entered into the debate and so forth.
Right.
I was trying to recall one of these two cases, but I remember Justice Benning. He had delivered one of these judgments in which an attempt has been made to set aside the proceedings on the basis that the public had already determined the matter has prejudiced the hearing and determination. And Justice Benning, I'm sorry I cannot remember the exact case, but I remember this is not the first time.
Okay, Mr. Painto, I'm
Yes.
sorry I have to interject. We're trying one more time to reach Kwekwan Sasari. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Okay, I can hear you, but faintly, but it's okay. Why do you feel that this latest process, as per Godfrey Adame, on behalf of the suspended Chief Justice, is going to trigger the committee or the Supreme Court? Why do you think that?
There's two reasons that Dr. Adame, as a former Attorney General, was Attorney General during the NPP era, and therefore everyone knows his political leaning, the NPP. Two, he was one of the key persons who supported the nomination and therefore the appointment of Chief Justice Gertrude Torkonoo. You see, and therefore entering into this legal battle suggests that it is an NPP NDC legal battle, and I say that as far as that picture gets painted, the ordinary Ghanaian citizen would think that it has seemed to be a legal battle, but has now become a political controversy.
Is it merely because? Is it merely because of his?
Behind the thing, and allowed some other lawyers to represent the Chief Justice. I'll not have any problem with it. So the problem I have with it is that it is entrenching the political divide. So it's not clear. The lines are drawn. It is NPP versus NDC. You see? And it was something that started as a legal battle is now engrossed in a political controversy. It's not good for the nation. It is not good for the nation.
Right. You say it's not good for the nation. Godfrey Adame has said that he's standing in as counsel for her. I mean, he has the right to do that. In fact, he says it is erroneous to think that his role as Torkonoo's lawyer in the injunction application against the probe affects the optics. He disagrees with you. But beyond these optics, there is an issue of an in-camera hearing. Kweku Pencil has shared his thoughts on it. Per the Constitution, my reading of what Professor Azan and others have shared suggests that this is, per the reading, constitutional on the face of it. It's not optional. What do you think of that, the in-camera situation?
It's not optional. It's a constitutional fiat. So it is something, it is a hurdle, that cannot be, crossed. So once the Constitution has stipulated the proceedings, to be in camera, no one, can be taken out of turn and, merely because the person is a Chief Justice, therefore the person can wait. How many ordinary Ghanaians, can wait set right? If you or, let's say, my wife, were to find yourself in this controversy, do you think that you can appear before the committee to suggest to them that you have decided to waive your right and they will hear you? No. The law is no respecter of persons. The president is subject to the Constitution. The Chief Justice is subject to the Constitution. The whole Ghana is subject to the Constitution. No one is above the Constitution. The Supreme Court is not above the Constitution. Whatever we do must be in consonance with the dictates of the Constitution.
Speaking of that Constitution, we know when the Constitution uses shall, what it means. But at the same time, on the back of the same political context that you've made mention of, that it's become political, NDC, NPP. And again, the context. Does the context matter at all? After all, the law is supposed to be progressive, right? Is it high time we looked at that clause to determine whether people can waive their rights?
Well, you see, that is why over the years, the canons of interpretation, have increased from 2 to now 6. In the past, it was just the neutral rule of interpretation. So, the judges will become constitution. But they realized that it was not healthy. If you take a strict constructionist approach, it may not help. They went on to the golden rule, and now they say purposely rule. What is the purpose, of Article 146 is in enacting that the proceedings shall be heard in camera. So if the word shall, had been used, there is no other, middle way. It is shall, and, shall is shall. Even though I concede that there may be instances where, the word may be construed. The 125 have, made it quite clear that citizens can, participate in the administration of justice, and we are participating in it. But the same constitution, says that when it comes to certain matters, such as the one, at hand, the proceedings shall be heard in camera. You have no choice. The Chief Justice, has been supervising the administration of justice. There is no situation which will call for a relaxation, of the word shall. This is not one of those situations. She has, boxed herself into a tight corner. These arguments, will not advance, the course of action, any more than what it is already on the ground. And as I said yesterday, I see all these, moves as a ploy to frustrate the committee from proceeding to completion. But these frustrations aside, the judges are human beings. They are being provoked, and they will take it out on all the lawyers who appear before them. So the moment you apply for an injunction order, it's missing. If I were the Supreme Court, all I would say is that we have made certain pronouncements. Enough is enough. Any new application shall abide by the pronouncements that we have already made. To bring an end, to this endless ping-pong game, you should take that tough stand, Now, the Chief Justice herself is now a litigant. Just when she appears before the court, she's still going to bar before her own junior as the Chief Justice. The buck stops on her deck. Now, she's lowering standards. She's going to appear before the very people she had a hand in appointing, my law, my lady, and all that. People will be, sitting on the bed. They'll be laughing at her without her knowing. And I'm saying that this is not, what we asked for. We did not go, to court to be ridiculed or humiliated. But now that, the stakes are high, by virtue of what she has herself done, it means she has slammed the door behind her. She's taking the key away, even if the petitions succeed. She will find it difficult to reopen the front door to enter.
Just clarify for me. Are you saying she's gone beyond the point of return with this interlocutory injunction she's seeking? Has she gone beyond the point of return?
Pardon?
Has she gone beyond the point of return with this latest interlocutory injunction she's seeking?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
All right.
She's closed the door.
Okay.
She's closed the door behind her. She cannot enter. When the committee was set up, the president, even though the president closed the door, he left the key hanging. And therefore, whenever the outcome was known and the petition said, she would, merely, remove the key to open the front door and enter. Now that, she has sued the president, she's not sued the Attorney General, she has sued the president. The only reason why she could not mention the name of the president on the writ is because of the immunity that the Constitution has accorded the president. That is, why she has had to sue, the Attorney General. Otherwise, it's the president she has to. But if you sue the president, who is, the head of one arm of, or branch of government, and you are also, when you finish and you lose, can you go back? And the state appeal to the good conscience of the president to reconsider his position, even if she wins. How is she going, to? She may go there, and the executive may decide, not to do anything about, the estimates of the judiciary.
Right.
The Chief Justice is constitutionally obliged to submit, the estimates for the judiciary, to the executive. Even though the Constitution in Article 127 has suggested that it should go straight, to the Ministry of Finance, for approval. They still have to go through, the executive and then take legislative approval. So the independence, that has been enacted in Article 127, theoretically, yes, but practically, there's some diminution there.
Right.
So the independence, financial independence of the judiciary, since 1992, has remained, on paper. And now that, the Chief Justice of the nation has sued the executive, I don't think that all is going to be well. The relationship, has broke. It can never, ever repair.
Okay.
Trust me.
Right. Sweetie?
Mr. Ansari, you said that the Chief Justice is going to her colleagues now to plead her case, and they will be laughing at her without her knowing. You also said that these judges are human beings. The Supreme Court has thrown out all her applications seeking to pause or stop the processes. And as we speak, you just also said that she's closed the door behind her. She clearly has no confidence in the people who are going to be listening to her case. And she cited her reasons in that plea. Does it mean that as we speak, there is no way we see the Chief Justice coming back to assume that office? I mean, coming back from that suspension, from where you see?
I mean, in our local parlance, they will say that she sacked herself. She sacked herself. She has sacked herself. You see, without her knowing so, she has sacked herself. Now, the objections she's raising, similar or identical objections have been raised in Gertrude and Apalu. And if the Lady Chief Justice and the lawyers who only care to go and reread Gertrude and Apalu, I mean JSC, it will make it quite clear that the rule against judicial bias is not cast in stone.
All right.
Just that the moment you say that there's some bias, then you win. No, there are situations where the presence of disqualifying elements under the rule against judicial bias will not render the adjudicator incompetent to sit. This is the law. This is what NEJA made. So when the Supreme Court spoke by the voice of NEJSC in Milton Apalu, they laid down the threshold. That threshold has ever since remained the rule or the principle.
Okay, Mr. Ansari, let's hear Mr. Penstill's take on the matter as well. Mr. Penstill, so this is
I would say that I'm totally shocked by the submissions that have been made by Mr. Ansari. I'm so much shocked. How could the former director of the law school, a teacher of the law, speak the way he
What is the element of shock for you? What did he say exactly that doesn't sit well with you?
That if we're a Chief Justice and you go to court, you have either descended lower, or that if you go to court, your case has been cast out in a way that will not permit the court to weigh and reflect upon the substance of the case, which is the meaning that I'm making out of what he's saying. And I'm totally surprised that a person's case is made on the basis merely of your position and the fact that, contrary to his view, she has gone to court to have her matters adjudicated upon as a former Chief Justice. And so what? I'm totally surprised. The impression is that the court makes up its mind not based on the merits of the matter before it, but based on factors which are, in my opinion, very irrelevant, and I don't understand him at all.
So you are hopeful that the Chief Justice has not, in fact, crossed the point of no return.
I'm surprised that he can say that.
No, I'm asking if you are hopeful that the Chief Justice can come back from the suspension.
There's no suggestion, no intimation, no whatever at all to reach that conclusion.
Okay.
Because then what he's saying is that the Supreme Court, they are mindless or what? I don't even understand him. That one should take he's not even arguing on the basis of the law.
Mr. Painter.
On the basis of the law, A, B, or C. He's just saying merely the fact that she's gone before the court and done this and done that. That alone. Come on.
No,
I'm so surprised.
Okay, let's allow Ansar Sari to explain himself.
Let him give us the legal basis for his contention. You should express it like that.
So, Mr. Ansar Sari, let's hear you out in terms of the legal backing for your submissions.
I was saying that I read the legal backing. I said this and that. But the point is that I would like my good brother to appreciate the legal point that there are ways in which the rule against judicial bias which the lady Chief Justice is to rely upon are right. I'm saying that the rule against judicial bias is not something, that is cut in stone, that when you go there and you bundle it will be affairs. No. There are situations where the certain qualifying elements under the rule will simply not render the administrator incompetent, to say. So if you are seeking to remove or to have Kwama and Kwame Kwesi moved merely because someone saw them chatting with other persons and all, that's not what it is bound to say. So I'm saying that rather than the Chief Justice herself descending into the arena of litigation, she could have allowed other persons to do that. Now, Kweku Pencil knows that the moment the Chief Justice, entered the courtroom, she, unlike the Attorney General, does not have audience in every court. So it is only the court that has brought, the action that it has. And when she enters that courtroom, they are not going to accord her the dignity of a Chief Justice. That they will treat her, as just anyone, ordinary Ghanaian litigant. And I'm also submitting that is not good for the image of the office of the Chief Justice. The office of the Chief Justice is a very, very high, pedestal. The edifice is so strong that it is one of the pillars of our constitutional dispensation in this country. And the head of the judiciary, as enshrined in Article 125, must not be seen to be negating the court and then go back, to a position as Chief Justice. That's the point I'm making.
All right. So let's pause here for a second. Mr. Painstill, so this is what he's saying.
This is a moral argument. This is not a legal argument. A lawyer, he himself is a teacher of the law, former director of the Ghana School of Law. And he cannot say that for these moral reasons that is given, a Chief Justice or a former Chief Justice must not go to court. The impression is given is that our judges are activated or actuated by moral issues or whatever, and not the law that come before them. We agree that judges are human beings like we are, but let's raise the pedestal a little. Let us know that
Well, so let's hear your legal backing for your counter-argument then, Mr. Painstill.
No, but we go to court for the law to be pronounced. That's the long and short. So somebody who makes an argument that when you go to court, by reason of your position as a Chief Justice or former Chief Justice, you lower the bar and stuff like that. I don't know where the argument comes from.
You may say those are moral arguments, not legal arguments. That is your opinion, obviously. Ansar Sari disagrees with you.
You are trying to suggest that Somebody must not activate the law merely because of his former position.
I doubt that is. I doubt that is the positioning. I think it's also premised on this. So tell me, there have been 2 interlocutory injunctions applications so far. One on her suspension, the other one on her impeachment as well. Both of them have been thrown out by the Supreme Court. That is a legal argument. How come? And that is the same court that these new matters, including these same points, are going before. Do you get now what Ansar Sari is trying to suggest?
No. You see, you don't make those kind of conclusions. You don't suggest that because this application have been thrown out, every application that comes will follow the same fate. I don't believe in that. It is not how our law operates. A lawyer may only express his view or his opinion based on whatever legal arguments that he has concerning any matter that occurs before the court. But that cannot be a reason why someone cannot mount any action for any good reason. You may only express your view about the matter, but don't reach those conclusive points to suggest that if you follow this path also you will lose. If not, at the very best, it may be your opinion. And that's it.
So
that's it.
We have a precedent in this country, we have a precedent where a former justice of the Supreme Court sued another judge of the Superior Court. I'm referring to the case of Yawadade and Teresa Kote Amata. And the Judicial Council in that, I think 1992 or so, descended severely on the Justice Adade that, he had mustered the courage to sue, a fellow judge. So they referred, in that case, they referred to the judicial immunity of judges. And, the Adade was admonished, and the advice that was given was that as judges, as sitting judges, they should be, the first and the last to go to court. So if a good friend, seeks to know, I've referred to the Adade, and that is the precedent. Now, if Yawadade at that time was an acting chief justice, he was the acting chief justice when he issued Teresa Masakote, and the Judicial Council frowned upon it. Now, here we are having the substantive chief justice suing a committee set up by the president in consultation with the Council of Chiefs. And I'm saying that tactically it's a very unwise step to take.
Okay. Gentlemen, I want to leave you, at least from my end, with these thoughts. I'll start with you, Kweku Painso. The suspended Chief Justice wants her suspension suspended. She wants some justices of the Apex Court disqualified from sitting on the matter, including Justices Wamang and Adibu Asiedu. And she cites that one of them sat on a case, one of the injunction applications that she had brought. Another one also ruled in favor of one of the petitioners in the past. The case of Justice Gayu, when the Chief Justice was still not suspended, comes to the fray. And she goes beyond that through Godfrey Dame to suggest that the committee itself, the lay members, should also go, and that, to effect, the committee's work should come to a grinding halt. With all these reliefs and approaches, what realistically do you think would happen in the Apex Court, looking at these reliefs that have been sought? And that is the same question for you, Mr. Ansar Sari.
I can already see that 2 rulings have already been given, all of which have gone against her. It would appear to me that the instant application referred to carry more or less the same theme. In other words, the attempt to, get the Chief Justice, the President's suspension of her set aside. And sometimes, looking at the trends, a lawyer may conclude that they may reach the same conclusion as they reached in the first 2 instances. But let me put it this way, that when we go to court, we want something to serve as a record that may guide the future. So when a matter has been tried over and over, we will all come to some conclusion that this is the way the judges have reacted or acted upon this type of complaint. And there can never be anything wrong with it. But I will say that Once those applications have been filed, let us hear what the Supreme Court will say. Even if we suspect or believe or reckon that on the basis of the two earlier rulings, they may reach the same conclusion. That's all that I want to say.
All right. Ms. Ansasari.
Okay, thank you very much. I would say that first, the CJ's action is, I'll describe that as one of the bad behaviors for which the Judicial Council was set up, to always ensure that the Chief Justice will not behave herself badly. Secondly, the law of karma. I'm glad you mentioned the Gao case. When Sadio Sori urged on the Supreme Court differently constitute in the Speaker's declaration of forces, case, the Chief Justice, said, what about Kwama? She said that now she finds herself going back to, eat, her humble pie. So if she says that, it is unwise for the president to empanel Kwama and a team, I can only say that it's the law of karma working. That's all that I can say.
Gentlemen, thank you for your time. I mean, you're both legal analysts, and these analyses for me raise questions about the independence of the judiciary and the executive authority and the 1990 Constitution. But this is where we are. So what's the best case scenario and worst case scenario now that the applications have been thrown out by the Supreme Court? That's my final question. Mr. Kweku Pencil. I think we've lost all our guests. Well, Kweku Pencil is a private legal practitioner, and Kweku Ansasari is former director, Ghana School of Law School, and they joined us. And if you're looking for a prime home in a prime location, then Nesta's Home has got you covered. Our properties in Tema Community 26, just behind Palace Mall, offer a serene atmosphere, easy access to transportation routes, and social amenities. Off-plan prices start at $35,000. Contact us today to get you sorted. These are the numbers to call: 053-101-4440 or 053-101-4447. You can also visit our website at www.nestas.com.gh.
And as always, I invite you to join me talk water tanks. Do you know the secret to real water storage? If you didn't, let me tell you, it's simple. If your tank doesn't have the tortoise on it, then it's not the correct tank. That's right, the tortoise tank, Syntex tank, is the champion of water tanks. It is strong, it is durable, it's built to handle our Ghanaian weather. So that rain or shine, Syntex tank has your back. So my people, go outside. Just take a step out there. Check your tank. If it doesn't have a tortoise on it, it's time to upgrade. Join the Syntex tank family today and enjoy water storage that's tough like a tortoise. You can call 0244-335-168 to buy now or find one of our 400 agents nationwide. You can also shop online at syntexgh.com. Syntex tank, strong, tough. Of course, we'll be taking you on the ground in a bit for day 3 of the AMS drive to decongest Accra and get rid of some of the traders impeding pedestrian walkways, and also to help facilitate vehicular traffic. On that beat, we have James Aveji. James, if you can hear me, what's the scene like this morning in Accra?
Well, Ben, good morning, and to our viewers as well. This morning, the task force is yet to hit the ground. We are now assembling at Circle in order to kick off the day with the decongestion exercise. Yesterday was the big activity at the Neoplan bus stop right opposite the Neoplan police station, where a number of makeshift structures were being pulled down by the AMA task force in conjunction with the Ghana Police Service as well as the National Security. That spot is where I am standing currently. We are back here to check the state of affairs 24 hours after that decongestion exercise has happened here. Now, let me take you to the median of the road right under the overpass, where a number of the people sent their wares, including fridges, mattresses,
and other items they trade in. That is where they sent it to this yesterday when the decongestion exercise was happening. But if you see there in your shot, just a couple of those boxes in which they keep their items are currently on the median there. Yesterday, the whole place was crowded with those boxes of their belongings. Now, if you pan to my right, I can tell you that some of these people have brought back their items to where they have been evicted yesterday. You see a number of the boxes have returned to the place, and a couple of them are sitting. I had attempted to find out from them why they have brought the things back, but they would not mind to talk to me, expressing their anger at what happened yesterday. And so from what we are seeing this morning, 24 hours down the lane, the squatters are gradually moving back to the bus stop where the decongestion exercise had happened yesterday. The conversation amongst them is that they currently do not have a place they will be moving to permanently. And so they are still hanging around, hoping to settle in fully. I don't know how the AMA task force would prevent this from happening, but when we spoke to the authorities yesterday, the indication they gave us is that as of yesterday evening and this morning, they will be deploying a number of the task force here to make sure that the people do not come back. It is unclear whether that deployment was done, but from what we are seeing this morning, it looks like that hasn't been done, for which reason the people are gradually moving back to their place. And so, Ben, there's a situation here. The squatters are gradually moving back to where the decongestion exercise has happened yesterday.
I see. And of course, we shall stay in touch. And as and when the AMA and other city officials show up, we'll get back on the ground to find out what exactly has been happening there, sweetie. So it's quite an interesting conversation we've had so far. We've spoken about the legal elements in that latest interlocutory injunction put forward by the Chief Justice. And as and when there's more to give you, we'll take you back on the ground. Don't you forget, the AM show is proudly sponsored by Whaley Properties. We provide quality housing at an affordable cost and with a flexible payment option.
Well, coming up next, let's tell you a story. Babies depend on their parents for survival. But as they grow, they learn to do things on their own and live independently. Sadly, that's not the case for 10-year-old Sebastina Maabna Ando. She's been out of school for the past 5 years as she battles cerebral palsy and scoliosis. Sebastina urgently needs 200,000 Ghana cedis for a first surgery to treat her scoliosis so she can return to the classroom. Joy News' Irama Akwe visited her home and brings us this report.
She does sometimes complain of pain. So we realized the back was burning. It's getting scarier because it's growing faster than it used to be, and what we thought it was, now it's getting scarier. We feel very scared the way it's growing faster.
Once an energetic little girl, who loved to run and sing, Abner's world has slowly narrowed. Her spine is now severely curved, a condition doctors say could one day affect her lungs, her movement, and even her life.
If you don't do anything about or you don't intervene at this point in time, the curve will just continue to become bigger. And when the curve becomes bigger, most of the curve is in the thoracic region. It's very likely to affect her breathing because it's in the same region that you have the lungs. So if the curve occupies too much of where the lungs are supposed to be, it's going to affect her breathing. And again, if your curve is bending too much, you tend to put pressure on the spinal cord. The spinal cord is what helps you to move, to feel, to control urine and control toilet. If it's if it's compressed so significantly, yes, it can affect all these functions, the way you feel, the way you move, your ability to control urine and then control toilet, yes.
Abner cannot sit for long. Lying down hurts, standing is a struggle, and when her seizures come, her mother stays by her side through sleepless nights.
When she lies down at one side, she will complain. If she often lie on her belly, and if you feel she's too much on her belly, so she wouldn't allow that, and she will start crying. Actually, because of that, it has made her condition and her upbringing become a bit difficult for we, the parent, to manage and handle her. With her care, you need attention. You need to pay extra attention with her care. There should always be an eye on her. That's even the main reason why she dropped out from the school, because there should be attention on her. I don't even sleep. I sleep in the morning. I sleep after 5 o'clock. Because she easily goes off sometimes, which we have to rush her to the hospital. So when you leave her to herself, you don't know what might happen to her.
Into me shame bano. Nenye surgery ne mano. Nesi ababi eduno. Wadapo awonto me. Wada so na chike kano. Ene yama titima me. Bepa mo cho. Mumwa me. Into me nya akwala ne surgery ne mano. Na na hontono no so to me call back to school. Ni nua nyina go school. Aka no pay. Bepa mo cho. So see because of her brain. Me hairdresser, me to me nejuma, me wofie. Me to me nejuma because then I was say me sheno, me the obeko toilet I was say because na chinese na aye nti no, onto me enye no one normal bibi I was so ye.
Even in pain, Abner finds ways to smile. She loves football. She loves to learn. She dreams of going back to school and walking without help.
I wish to see my child being independent, doing things on her own. I've done what, as a man or as a father, to help my child. But for the past year or two, I've not been able even to pay for her medications, talk less of the surgery, to go through the surgery.
Her father sold his car and shut down his business, but they are still far from raising the 200,000 Ghana cedis needed for the surgery.
So we want to give her enough time for the trunk to really grow to its full potential before we do a final surgery for her. So what we will do is, we call it growing rods surgery or growing rods fusion. What we'll do is that we'll fix the proximal part of the deformity. and then we'll fix the inferior or the lower part of the deformity. And what is in between will stretch out the spine. And then periodically, she will come for us to lengthen her, grow the spine until such time that we think that she's grown well enough or almost up to what the full potential of the spine will be. Then we can go on to do a final correction and do a final surgery for her.
Anybody with little help to support my child. Only seeing her walking normally again means so much to me. Seeing my child in her uniform going to school means so much. Seeing my child again walking normally like any other child would do would be very grateful to me. And I need support. I can't afford it. I'm helpless. I can't take up the bills. Even with the little we've gone through at the hospital was as a result of Auntie Reggie's help to get to this point. I need help.
Abna has the will. What she does not have is the means to pay for the corrective surgery. But she is hopeful in the face of adversity that one day she will stand straight, walk again, and wear her uniform to chase her dreams.
It's the season finale of the Champions League. Paris Saint-Germain and Inter Milan will be locking horns on the 31st of May, 2025. And guess what's happening around that? Hits FM, rep your jersey. And on the back of that also, when was the last time you tasted Torkonoo ginger? As a little girl, I grew up loving that candy. Stay with me, I'll tell you more. In the studio with me this morning, we have Toda Ni Alote. He's the Chief Finance Officer of Afriwara. And we have Joseph Amwa, Sales Manager for Royal Sweets Limited. And they are the ones who produce Torkonoo ginger. Gentlemen, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
So let's start with a simple question. Between Paris Saint-Germain and Inter Milan, where's your money on? Who's your money on?
I'm going for PSG.
PSG and Inter Milan?
I'm going for Inter Milan.
Okay, so we are ready. So let's get the competition going. And Torkonoo ginger is sponsoring the Hits FM Rep Your Jersey. I want to ask why you thought it wise to come on board as a sponsor for this beautiful, fun-making activity around the Champions League.
Oh, in fact, we value activities that build community through fun, and yes, and we also want to help improve the youth culture. That's the reason why we are supporting this program.
Since I have you on now, let's talk about Afriwara. Yes. So tell us about Afriwara and some of the things that you do before we segue into Torkonoo ginger.
But Afriwara is a giant business that is doing produces confectionery in West Africa here. In fact, Royal Sweet, which is the producer of Torkonoo ginger, is a subsidiary of Afriwara. Afriwara has 3 companies in West Africa, one in Mali, one in Cote d'Ivoire, and one in Ghana.
Okay.
But the one in Abidjan is the biggest, so that's where our headquarters is.
So Afriwara is the parent company
of Royal.
And Royal Sweet is a subsidiary. And Royal Sweet are the producers of Torkonoo ginger. Yeah. And Torkonoo ginger is sponsoring the Hits FM Rep Your Jersey for the grand finale. So that brings me to you, Toda. What does Joseph rather? What does Royal Sweets have planned for the Champions League final? Exactly what are you doing when you come with Torkonoo ginger on 31st May?
Okay, so on 31st May, we will be coming round for people to have a taste of our products.
We'll give a sample. We'll be sampling the product out. We have a stand where we'll be giving the products to our lovely customers. So those who has been a long time, you guys tasted Akono ginger. When you come to that place, you'll be able to have a taste of our products.
Okay.
And we'll be giving a lot of products out for people who will predict our. We'll do a lot of activities over there. So those who win, we'll give them some of our products.
Tell us about Akono ginger specifically. Why should we? I know Akono ginger. I grew up eating Akono ginger, although I haven't seen it in a while. So let me ask you rather, what is the composition of Akono ginger teaser so that when we come to your stand, we know exactly what we are coming for? Tell us about Akono ginger.
Akono ginger is made of our local spice ginger, which has been nicely crafted with other ingredients to form this nice toffee. You understand? Anytime you take Akono ginger, it has this anti-inflammatory agent that helps you. And even if you are feeling nauseatic, you can take Akono ginger and you'll be okay. These are some of the benefits you can get from eating Akono ginger.
Okay. So as we speak, where can we actually go get it?
It's all over in the market.
Okay.
All over. Our main distributors are Far East Mercantile. Those are our main distributors.
Okay.
Anywhere in Ghana, you can find our.
What about for bulk purchases?
Far East Mercantile.
Okay.
Yes, they are our sole distributors in Ghana here.
Okay. So on the 31st of May, when we come to your stand, we have Akono ginger ready for us. Any other product you have that we should know about from Royal Sweets Limited?
Okay, so we have ginseng. We have.
Oh, I know ginseng.
Super ginseng. Then we have Santos Sweet, which is from Wrapped. We have Santos Tutti Gum. We have Santos Mint Gum. We have Pecto. Yes, and we have.
Yes. Our candies remind you of the olden days that we used to use.
Actually, there you have it on your screen.
Yes. That's Akono ginger. Yes.
So everything's sweet.
Everything's sweet.
Okay. I know you came here with a message, so I'm going to ask you to tell us what that message is. I mean, of course, we are all going to support our teams and rep our jerseys. If you're coming, you should come with your jersey, please. And what is that message that you brought here for us today?
We are encouraging everybody to come to the Aviation Social Center on the 31st of May. Because for us, Royal Sweet, it's going to rain toffees over there the whole time, the whole day. Yes.
Manchester United fans will not be happy because they don't have anything sweet yet. But
Exactly.
What about you?
Okay.
Final message for us.
Okay, so you come on 31st May at Aviation Center. We're going to make sure you have the tradition that the toffee that your mother, your father ate during their time. You also have a nice taste on that day. So that's what we're doing there.
I'm curious, how long have you been producing this?
Over 20 years.
Over 20 years?
Yes.
And you're still doing it? Same quality, same taste?
Same taste. Same taste, yes.
Same price?
No, definitely not.
Why not?
Time changes.
Time changes indeed.
An economic.
Well, thank you so much. Toda Nialote, that's Chief Finance Officer for Afriwara. And Joseph Amwa is Sales Manager for Royal Sweet Limited. And they are the producers of Akono Ginger and many other sweet candies. And they're also sponsors for the Hits FM Rep Your Jesse. And the finale between PSG and Inter Milan happening on the 31st of May 2025. And you want to come in there, support your Jesse, eat some sweets, and make merry. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you too much.
All right. So are you ready to dream, dare, and deliver in the world of IT? Then look no further than Jackson Institute of Technology, the only NIIT authorized training center in Ghana. At JIT, we provide world-class training for individuals and corporate organizations, equipping you with industry-relevant skills in software development and cybersecurity, networking, cloud computing, artificial intelligence, digital marketing, and more. We also offer globally recognized certifications, practical job-ready training, and flexible hybrid learning options, which allows you to study either online or on-site. And our expert instructors ensure hands-on learning experiences that prepare you for success in today's digital world. And we are conveniently located on the Ring Road near Circle in the heart of Accra Central Business District. And in Kumasi, we are at Jackson Educational Complex headquarters at Ayediase near KNUST. JIT provides easy access for students and corporate clients. Plus, our state-of-the-art auditorium is also available for corporate events, seminars, and training sessions. Why don't you call us now? 0596 996 037 or 0596 996 038 or 0552 714 635. You can also visit our website at www.jit.edu.gh. JIT, your gateway to a thriving IT career. We'll take a break. When we return, more action on the AM show.
And here we are back on that subject. Don't you forget, though, that the AM show is proudly sponsored by Waylead Properties. We provide quality housing at an affordable cost and with a flexible payment option. We get into that U.S.-South Africa relations standoff. Joining me for a conversation, we have Nanaya Mreku. He's an analyst as far as international affairs are concerned. A great one as well. There's a little secret I know, but I'm not going to let the cat out of the bag. Nanaya, South African researcher Neo Letwalo referred to the meeting before it happened as a tricky place to be, as make or break, and as one that will require supreme negotiations. Just give me your fundamental understanding of what happened yesterday. Donald John Trump versus, well, Cyril Ramaphosa.
Well, thank you, Ben, for having me, and good morning to your viewers. It's always good to be back here to talk about these matters with you. I think what happened yesterday was extraordinary, in my opinion, not historic, because we've seen how some of these things have gone down in the Global Office, but this was nevertheless an extraordinary, event, in my opinion. And I think that going to this meeting, for this meeting yesterday, I think there was already tension in the air, considering the back and forth, the diplomatic row between South Africa and then United States, over what President Trump considers to be genocide, amongst against white Afrikaners. And then also the fact that, South Africa had championed the International Court of Justice case against Israel. And this current administration of Donald J. Trump was not very happy about it. And also we have very influential people within Trump circles who also happen not to be on the good side of Cyril Ramaphosa, one of them being Elon Musk. Remember that Elon Musk has been trying to establish Starlink company in South Africa. And there is this clause that says that 30% of the company that you want to establish exactly has to be black people. And Elon Musk is not happy with that. So you could see somebody is pulling the strings with Trump's response to Cyril Ramaphosa. And you remember that the G20 that is coming up, because of these issues, United States is not wanting to be a member of not wanting to participate in G20 that is going to be hosted by South Africa. So there's a little political, and you'd also recall that U.S. aid was pulled from South Africa, I think, just some few months ago. But the most significant issue has been what Trump has been calling confiscation of land, which is what in South Africa is known as expropriation without compensation. And I think this is the land issue that is all over. It was an instrument of empire or colonialism. It's not only South Africa that is going through this phase. Zimbabwe has been through it. In fact, Ghana was lucky, that we were able to salvage the situation, in then 1897, So these are issues that are, cropping up, and it's, you'd want to find out whether what happened yesterday was towards repairing the relationship or, as you put on your screen, whether the relationship is on rock. So I think this is a little context of what's been happening so far.
So 2 quick points on what you make mention of. One of them being, you can go back to apartheid, which ended in the 1990s, and then you can talk about how that ended. When it ended, and mind you, the Afrikaners are, their forebears were the French and the Dutch,
And the Germans, yeah.
And those as well. But if you look at how it reconstituted South African land, some 3 decades after the end, the blacks, who comprise 80% of the population, we are talking about 63 million people, own around 4% of private land, which means that the rest is in the hands of the white Afrikaners. How did that situate in the conversation? Also, on the back of the expropriation and the farmland issues?
No, I think you rightly put the whole situation in context because the Afrikaner constitute just a fraction of the total population of South Africa. Yet they control the most significant arable, cultivable land in the country. So South Africa is one of the few countries that you can say that even though they have independence, right, apartheid still looms, in the corner. And you can see...
In terms of land ownership.
In terms of land ownership. And even other, indicators, if you want to go by those indicators. So there is independence, but the inequality gap is very acute. And, people have been clamoring for this kind of compensation for a very long time. They had one that was enacted in 1975, but it was not really redistributing land. And so just recently in January 2024 is when this expropriation without compensation bill came, into implementation by Cyril Ramaphosa. And Cyril Ramaphosa was a deputy to Nelson Mandela in the ANC. So it's a long time coming. This is a bill that ought to have been passed. It was sitting on their necks. And you should also understand the political constitution of South Africa's, democracy. The ANC now is a national unity government composed of the Democratic Alliance and the Popular Front Plus. These are white Afrikaner parties. And they agreed to come together to rule the country. And these are the same people that are affected by the expropriation without compensation. But the expropriation without compensation bill is not done in vacuum. There are three things that ought to be established before you go for these lands. If the lands are unused for a very long time, and it's done on the principle of equity, it's done on the principle of in the interest of the public interest, and then it should be just. So for a long time, this reconstitution and redistribution of land has been, they have mooted the idea or they've been tinkering the idea until 2024. And I think that it has not even taken full implementation yet. It's not really taking shape. And so this is one of the things that happened, and a few white Afrikaners have been affected. But then again, we know the geopolitics of the day, why Trump is seeking to, this is an overbeating drum. He's exaggerating, the issue. There's one thing about Trump, and this is something I picked from Professor Lumumba. He says that Trump usually wants an apple, but he shakes the whole apple farm. So that when you come to the negotiating table, eventually he wants you down to the very apple that he wants. There's something smaller that Trump wants to do with South Africa. But you've seen how he's blown the thing out of proportion. And if you ask me yesterday, Cyril Ramaphosa was a master negotiator, if you ask me. Say what you may.
It's dexterity.
Exactly. He didn't fall to the bait. He was able to regulate the diplomatic temperature, the diplomatic ambience in the room-to-room temperature, and not allow it to escalate. Elsewhere, somebody would have fallen to the bait and then confronted Trump. Trump is somebody who wants that auspicious moment to project himself as leading the narrative. So when he's uninterrupted and uninterjected, he feels in charge. And Ramaphosa gave him that
Right.
So you would say that
there was a point where he had to be told, allow that to go on.
Exactly.
Unlike, because some people expected a Zelensky-like bust-up.
Yes.
Which in a way was avoided yesterday.
Yes. And that's why I'm saying that he naturally is soft-spoken. He is calm and collected. If you look at his posture yesterday, I understand people are saying that why was he there in the first place? It looks like he was cozying up to Trump. But if you wanted to maintain some level of respect and not kowtow to Trump, you shouldn't have gone there in the first place.
Right.
But once you are there, you need to play by the books.
And speaking of playing by the books, the South African president, I'm sure if he had his way, wouldn't be there in the first place. But it's because of the crucial, sort of trade relations.
Right.
South Africa's second largest trading partner is the United States.
Right.
Then you look at the concessions when it comes to agric and the tariff-free, situation, which some senators are now saying should be scrapped by some point in this year. South Africa stands to lose a lot if the U.S. decides to cripple it. And you remember Trump was saying there are many, many ways that we can. So it was a very obvious threat, overt threat he was putting out there.
Yeah.
But Cyril Ramaphosa, navigated that pretty well, didn't he?
Yeah, I think he did. And look, we say that war is politics by other means, and so is diplomacy. Sometimes it's not only about pride, but it's for the general good of your people.
Right.
Ramaphosa spoke truth to power before coming to the White House. And even in the Oval Office, in some instances, he interrupted, and then put the facts on the ground. But he did it in such a way that it was not offensive. And at the end of the day, he was able to articulate the main reason why he was there.
And I'll not be surprised that in the few days coming, this meeting would have provided some dividends to the ultimate good of South Africa. We are looking at the trade relation that is seeking to establish. They are also looking at bilateral security arrangement with the United States, including Starlink, introduction in South Africa. So I think that by and large, there are going to be some good, there are going to be some dividends that will come out of this this meeting in the lower office in some few days. And when it does, it's a win-win situation for both Trump and for Ramaphosa. For Trump, he was, like I said, he was able to navigate and lead the conversation. On the part of Ramaphosa, he was able to be self-composed and yet put across his message. And I think that something positive, will come out. But I think that also important is how people are learning how to deal with Trump. World leaders are learning how to deal with Trump. If you want to have his ears, you don't have to be confrontational. You only have to cozy up to him and let him speak all that he wants to speak before you make your case.
Let's talk about the veracity of some of what Trump used. And for the first time, again, another novelty. He called for the lights to be dimmed, and then we started seeing these videos, which, according to the major portals, are not exactly, in fact, they are not genuine. But there have been instances, they were put together, linked, and then put out there. Then the name of Julius Malema also came up. How did that scenario, how did you perceive that scenario? Was that a tactical approach?
Well, but you see, I keep saying that when you're dealing with Donald Trump, there's nothing that is to be expected.
Nothing is off the table.
Nothing off the table. And these are the kind of punches that you would never expect the leader of the free world to pull.
I was stunned.
You would expect diplomacy at the very top level to be demonstrated in the Oval Office. But this was a clear case. Some people want to call it ambush. But I think this was something that Ramaphosa himself was not expecting. And you could see that he was squirming in his seat. Like, he was not very comfortable when he was watching the video. But once again, he was able to rehearse what his response would be in the aftermath of the video. And I really like what he said. Without being confrontational, I think the videos, in the first instance, these are unsubstantiated videos. We don't even know where. For the ones that were in the voice of Julius Malema, I'll come to that. Right. For the ones that were in the voice of Jacob Zuma and Umkhonto Wesu, I'll come to that. But for the pictures that he was, more like throwing at Cyril Ramaphosa, these were unsubstantiated. So at one point, Ramaphosa said, I would like to see where these pictures are coming from. As the president of South Africa, he doesn't even know where they are coming from. But then again, South Africa is a democracy, right? The same way you have alt-right extremist party in the US, you know what happened in Charlottesville. Right. If you go to Germany, they have the alternate for Deutsche Party, AfD. It's extreme. This is what we call the new breed of political parties coming up. But in every democracy, it was you, J.D. Vance, who was in Germany to lecture them to allow extreme right parties to exist. So in that same vein, South Africa is a democracy. You can't.
And Cyril pointed that to him.
Yes.
He says they're a small party, but our democracy allows
them. This is freedom of speech. I mean, Cyril Ramaphosa is not the one to be preaching this to US, the beacon of democracy. You can't go around arresting people just because they spoke their mind without evidence to see that it is leading to some sort of, mayhem. So I think that he was able to understand, the situation and then de-escalate it by responding logically and not, being emotional and falling to the beat. But once again, I think that this was an unexpected development. But then again, we are talking about President Donald Trump. There's a lot of unexpected sequence of events that has happened within the past few months that you and I have been having this conversation.
And speaking of Cyril again, the tact with which he went there, he went armed himself. He knew this was going to be a bust-up of sorts. He went armed. In fact, he went armed with human resource, golfers. Apart from the gift he gave Trump, he went with golfers, Ernie Els and Retief Goosen. And he didn't just stop there. He also went with Johan Rupert, South Africa's richest man.
Right.
And at the point where he was being flagellated, he would tell Trump, these are white people, prominent white people in my country. If there were a genocide, they wouldn't be here.
Right. And even the Minister of Agriculture is coming from Democratic Alliance Party. He's a white person.
Yeah.
And they were able to enumerate a number of factors that shows that clearly there is no white genocide in South Africa. So where are you getting this information from? Where are you trying to create the impression that, of course, the issue in South Africa, I understand there is race, but those that are disadvantaged because of race is not the Afrikaners, it's black people. But the issue of South Africa is also not about race, it's about crime. South Africa has a very high crime rate.
Right.
And so you need to deal with the situation holistically than to, behave like an ostrich and think that it is only the white Afrikaners that are, in this kind of situation. And so these are, I like how you
also pointed that out that to him
right,
in terms of crime and other things that happen, even on the farm.
Right.
That, because they have a situation where they don't name or they don't state a race of the person who is killed, you can't, this person was black, this person was white. Though technically in some instances we've had the white farmers, but both black and whites have been affected.
In fact,
that situation.
For me, South Africa, it has the largest number of white settlers. It was what we call settler colony. Yeah. South Africa, Tanzania, Kenya. These were colonies that white people that settled there never had intention of leaving. And so, if you look at this compensation without expropriation, I think that South Africa is handling it very well. Because if you look at what happened in neighboring Zimbabwe, what they call the Lancaster Agreement between ZANU-PF, Robert Mugabe, and then the Queen of England, that metamorphosis is something more brutal under the leadership of Tony Blair. It blew out of proportion. And then out of anger, Robert Mugabe started his compensation. And he was done in a more brutal way because he wanted to forcefully expropriate the land for black people. South Africa, I think, on the hindsight, learning from the history of what happened in Zimbabwe, is trying to be very diplomatically tasked with the situation and not have a Zimbabwe situation on their hand.
Nanaya, will the diplomacy work? Because again, I'll go back to that point, and it's interesting you brought it back up. Namibia or Botswana have also been through there, especially Zimbabwe in recent times. But South Africa, maybe, should this have been done in a better way, this land redistribution much earlier? Were there failures? Because think about it. Imagine Ghana with 80% of us, let's say maybe 26, 27 million Ghanaians, owning 4% of the land, and assuming the imperialists who had been with us before 1957 owned the rest of the land. How do you think that would have panned out?
Well, I think it wouldn't have been a very good situation, on our hand. But let me give you this brief background. You know that we nearly had a similar situation. In 1894, I recall in one of our history lessons that the British colonial administration introduced a land appropriation bill. And I've always said that it has always been an instrument of imperialism. This is how they grab land. And then our own John Mensah Saba, with our chiefs, right? And through the Aborigines Right Protection Society, were able to come to our defense and immediately started putting in clause where this land they call terra nullius. Terra nullius in international law is lands that are unoccupied. Immediately we started putting up certain projects to show that these lands are owned. So we had a different historical narrative, that unfortunately Zimbabwe and these South African countries were not, privy to. But I think that probably if it had happened to us currently, right, I'm just trying to understand how we would have done things differently, than South Africa, because they have been dealing with this situation post-apartheid for the last 30 years.
Indeed.
How are they supposed to? It's a quagmire. It's an albatross. How are they supposed to deal with it?
And if you're going to look at equity and justice, again, consider that the minority whites. They are in the minority in terms of population. They own 72% of the nation's agricultural land, prime land for production. And we're not trying to, create any black, white, but the case is, this is South Africa. It's a rainbow nation. But 72% of that prime land is in the hands of whites, and 80% of the population are managing 4%.
Well, in the first instance, I don't want to be cynical this morning, but when Desmond Tutu said South Africa is a rainbow nation, I'm really struggling to understand whether it's still a rainbow nation when the resources are heavily in the hands of
different colors.
That's what they say, one people. I'm really struggling to wrap my head around. There is a paper we wrote recently, and we were trying to look at the issues within South Africa, US, and India, and try to draw out countries that say that they are really a post-racial society, but racism is still at the core of such societies. Yeah. And so I think that Ramaphosa is doing the best he can, and even in the presence of power, he's just trying to say that expropriation bills are not only unique to South Africa. Even US has it. In some instances, Ghana is reclaiming public lands that are in the interest of the public, that are in the hands of individuals. It's in the law. So there's a way we can reclaim our lands. Maybe you need to listen to people that are close to you and are also South Africans. Maybe they will tell you the truth.
Okay. But so if you look at it, there is racist land inequality in South Africa, just not the way Trump and Musk are painting it. But in our context, what lesson could we learn from what is happening there? I mean, they have their tariff, agreement now, 30% on hold, but they stand to lose more compared to our 10%. What lessons can we pick from them?
Well, I think in the first instance, we need to understand that the demographic distribution is different. The reason why South Africa is going through what they are going through is because of the mixed race and how that laid a complex, foundation for apartheid. We on this side of the continent, in this country, at least, we are not going through that kind of complex racial disparity differences between white and black. So I think that is something that plays in our interest. We don't have white minority here having a disproportionate amount of our resources. It's still in the hands of black people here. But I think that going forward, what we can learn, in my opinion, is how to be responsive, right, to the needs of people. That even if we have some of these bills, even if we have some of these policies into reclaiming the land, how do we make sure we do it in a way that it doesn't, give us a blowback? It doesn't, blow us back in our faces, and it doesn't also antagonize people that are heavily invested in the country, so they move away with their investment. Diplomacy is very, very important, and so even if you have to talk to people, negotiation, dialogue to de-escalate the situation is always important, in my opinion. Diplomacy is key in this kind of issues.
Nanayo, we're grateful for your time. I'm sure this will keep blowing, this air, this breeze of U.S.-South Africa relations will keep blowing. But Nanayo Mreku is an analyst of international affairs. He has a focus on Africa as well, and he joined the conversation. But let's take you boots on the ground to our man on the beat, James Aveji. He's been bringing us all the scoop when it comes to the AMA. They have started out on day 3. James, if you can hear me, what's the latest? What's the action on the ground?
Okay, thank you. And so that is one of the squatters whose items were confiscated yesterday, speaking to us, telling us that he used to sell shoes and he's still not able to find his things. Now, minutes after we talked about the coming back, the AMA task force is here, and they have packed a number of the boxes and the belongings of the squatters and are taking them away. If you see, they have gathered quite a number of the things in the sack on the floor there, and a number of them have also been packed into the awaiting truck, which is just about to drive away. They say they have finally confiscated those items for the fear that if they leave them behind, these squatters may bring them back. And so the truck is driving away the items of the squatters, which they had brought back this morning, as we have come to see. Their trading tables, the makeshift tables, the boxes in which some of their wares are kept are being driven away now. You see the AMA task force with a number of the national security operatives still on the ground. They have come after we reported that the squatters are back to the place. The first truck has moved, and we are told that they would go and dispose those things off and come back to pick the other things. I see in a pan there a number of local herbs which has also been packed there. Yesterday we were told by the Deputy Metro Director, Madam Mercy Odoi, that the number of items they picked up information that these people also trade in illicit drugs as well as local aphrodisiacs to other members of the public, for which reason they came to do the decongestion exercise. And those are some of the evidence on the bag there. We are seeing the AMA, I mean, we spoke to her earlier, and she indicated that what they would have to do now, yesterday she told us that they would be deploying security to the place, but what he told us in that interview is that they deploy the AMA security folks. They were here up to 7 p.m. and had to leave the place to go and rest briefly and come back, and she believes it was within that space of time that the squatters had to come back to bring back their things. They would be deliberating on the permanent measure to deal with this I asked if they will be deploying those security guards tonight in order to prevent a possible comeback this evening. She said they will think about that and know what to do, as well as wait for a specific directive from the mayor on what to do. But a possible 24-hour security guard will not be ruled out of the picture. We can come back now to the women sweeping and gathering the rest of the remnants of the items that have been left on the floor now. I'll come back to you, speak to you, sir, but we just want to pick what is happening. And so the place has been clear again, but the question still remains what they will do to maintain what we have seen. The promise yesterday was for the deployment of some security guards to keep the place clean, but it looks like that didn't happen, for which reason they were back to bring back their boxes. Now it has been cleared now. You see the women gathering the refuse which they'll be sending back. We hope that the AMA will now keep to its words and deploy the security guards and to prevent them from coming back again. And so that is the situation here. Just a word with you, sir. Just a word with you, sir. You have come back to clear the people. This time you have seized all the boxes that they brought back. What is the permanent solution moving forward?
Thank you and good morning. Yeah, the same thing. This as part of the decongestion exercise. Wherever we move to, we follow up to see whether what we did yesterday, did they comply with? It's a bylaw enforcement. Bus stops are not meant for any activity. It's meant for only passengers to transit. And it's difficult getting these people out here. So as we enforced the laws yesterday, this morning we got a wind of that they are back again. So we had to come. We got here, we saw that they have resurfaced with different development with their items. So we had to come again, clean and tidy up the place. Our aim and agenda is to ensure that the bus stop is free. The shoulders of the road is free. The pavements are free. This is not the market that we do market. This place is not part of market. This is a bus stop erected by the assembly. Our concern is that the bus stop should be free.
How do you make it free permanently, considering that they came back?
Now I'm talking to you. Director has mandated through the National Security Coordinator, put 3 permanent security officers here. Permanent security officers here to ensure daily routine inspection and enforcement here. And we are going to ensure that this place is as clean as it is as of now. Nobody will sell here. That is the truth. This is a bus stop. You can bear with me. And I want to plead with you. When you are reporting, you should report according to the bus stop. It's a bus stop. We are not demolishing anything, but we are clearing the bus stop free of trading. That's all.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Joseph Asitanga there. And Ben, well, the confirmation now is that the decision has been taken for at least 3 city guards to be stationed here permanently in order to keep the place, prevent the squatters from the re-encroachment we have seen this morning. We would give the AMA a time to see whether that will be done, and the permanent security guards will be here to prevent the coming back of the squatters. But as you see there, the second truck is in, and they are loading in the rest of the items that have been seized so far for disposal. The AMA said they have confiscated them, and we wait to see how this would be sustained moving forward. Ben.
And so interesting dynamics there. I guess some standoff, James. And 24 hours on the new plan stretch, people are back. When you spoke to the AMA officials, though, did they get the sense that eventually they would win this battle?
I do not see that, Ben. Sincerely, I do not see that, because if that conviction had been there since yesterday, I'm sure it would have informed the decision they would have taken yesterday in order to prevent what we have seen. But I want to believe that this is an evolving issue and some critical lessons will be learned from what has happened this morning, and perhaps give them the benefit of the doubt and see what happens in the coming days. That will determine whether some hard lessons have been learned and they have now got the conviction and the resolve to win this fight.
James Aveji is a superstar on the ground doing amazing work, highlighting these issues for us from day one to yesterday and today. He has his boots on the ground and he's been reporting. We're grateful to you, James, for that stellar bit there. What do you think about the AMA's work, the mayor, and everything in between? Is this the right move? Some would say yes, especially for vehicular congestion and also for, passers-by to be able to use the pedestrian walks and all of that. But this is evolving. Don't you forget, the AM show is proudly sponsored by Whaley Properties. We provide quality housing at an affordable cost and with a flexible payment option. It's been a pleasure coming your way this morning, Sweetie Abochi and yours truly, allowing us to serve you from the start of the show through the different segments we've had. We love you. And as we wrap, we're going to be taking you to Ghana Grows, where we'll be telling you about the latest installment of that. But before that, let's take a look at Crumbling Start. We'll bring you a bit of that before we cap off the show.
Our Catholic Basic School was established in 1944. Throughout its 81 years of existence in the central regional capital of Cape Coast, the school has produced several prominent women, including Ghana's first female Supreme Court Justice and Speaker of Parliament, the Right Honourable Joyce Bamford Addo. However, students and staff are crying for help as several challenges threaten the very environment that is building their future. Francis Kofi is a school improvement support officer for the Ola Circuit.
The rainy season has just started, and there are several projects that have been going on in some of the schools. Typically, a school like Ola Kali Girls JHS, in fact, they are undertaking a series of projects, of which is to help actually protect the life of our learners. And as we speak now, in fact, the project is quite stalled because of lack of funds. So, talking about the projects, a school named Abakem Kran Presby School also has projects that, in fact, they need support. So basically, in my capacity as a CISO, I want to call on, our MPs, philanthropists, even the MCE, to come to our aid. In fact, we need early intervention so that these projects, can be completed.
The headmistress of the school, Amanda Edwin Anyamebetre Akore, while lauding GASEM for helping the school's infrastructural development, appealed particularly to former students, the government, philanthropists and other stakeholders to help the school.
This school has trained a lot of female leaders. The former Chief Justice, Mrs. Bamford Addo, was a student here. We also had Mrs. Indum. She also completed here. So we are calling on every stakeholder to come to our aid. We also want to appeal to philanthropists, especially GASEM used to supply us with cement, and these are some of the things that you've seen. There's the supply we had from GASEM. So we are appealing to GASEM to adapt this school and help us to build this building. It's a 3-classroom block. The way the school is expanding, we are pleading that they will come to our aid and help us to put up this building so that our learners can have a conducive mind to learn to improve the economic growth of this country.
One of the major challenges of the school is security, which is emphasized by Zachary Yamba Gatoni, the PTA chairperson of the school.
It's my prayer that security is also an issue. We parents pay for security for now, and even that, it's not the best. Running water in the school is also a problem. When a girls' school which doesn't have running water, it's serious to talk about. And also our learning materials. We hear government is working on it, but we will plead that as early as possible, much is done to help in teaching and learning.
Abigail Lissel and Chroma reports for Joy News.
And there we are. Right before we go, though, let's celebrate Ruby Aivo. It's your 60th birthday today, and we celebrate you, Ruby. Ruby Aivo of MTN. I wish you God's blessings as you retire gracefully from active service. It's coming from all of us here at the Multimedia Group. But before we cap off, Sweetie has a message for you.
Do I now? Happy birthday, Justin Odoy, my friend from grad school. Yesterday was your birthday. I celebrate you. But I do want to say that we have located the girl whose father molested her and impregnated her. This weekend or the next weekend, we are making arrangements to go there with a clinical psychologist to see how we can help her. So if you're interested in coming aboard to see how we can turn this girl's life around, contact me, you know how. And thank you all so much for the support pouring in so far. And this is something we're doing at Girl Gets Up Africa. Thank you all so much.
Good.